You are currently being recorded.
You got to do your trademark, though. Hit it up.
Hello, hello, hello.
There it is.
There you go.
All right, Michael Lindsay, welcome to the Pivotable Podcast. Everybody gets it wrong.
I did. I think, Pivotable. Pivotable?
Mm-hmm. It's like pivot table, but pivotable.
Pivotable.
Yeah.
I feel very pivoted right now.
Yeah, we're going to pivot today for sure.
I'm very pivoted and I'm at a table.
Yeah. All right. So here's my notes, like I need them.
Oh my goodness, you actually made notes?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I'm
there's
scared.
you can't peek either. Because I know you're eagle eye man. All right, so let's start because you got 50 million things. I think you're the busiest dude in motocross.
I know you had Weege on. I think Weege might be the busiest, but I would claim to be a close second. I think when it comes to media, I do almost every version of the job at some point during a week, whether it's photography, videography, editing, podcast, editing, audio, writing, managing social media, managing sales, managing the website, everybody's travel, doing expense reports, the whole 9 yards. It's so much
You're
fun.
like a professional juggler.
I've never been good at juggling though, so that's a big problem.
Well, you're doing
I
it
also
somehow.
have hellacious ADHD.
Well, that's probably what gets you by.
It's what's allowed me to do so many things because I get bored so easy. I always joke I'd probably be farther in life if I would have just picked something and stuck with it. But I'm definitely the shiny thing, squirrel kind of person. So it's made me a jack of all trade, by far master of none, because I just dabble in stuff for a while till I get kind of good at it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Let's try something else now. And then you make really bad decisions. You're like, I'm going to quit my job and start a YouTube channel. I'm going to quit doing that and start a race team. I'm going to go back to my job.
Yeah. We'll get there. So what is your official title at Vita? I know you do every single thing.
Director or content director, I guess, is technically my title.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's like what I guess you would call it the digital version of a editor-in-chief from the magazine days.
Okay. Digital. I love it.
It's all digital.
Everything's digital. I think it's always interesting. Like that's one of the reasons I want to have Weege on. Have you listened to the podcast ours at all?
I listened to Weege's a little bit. It's the one I've had time to sit down and listen to because I really enjoy. Because Weege understands a lot of what I deal with because we do a very similar job. But again, he's similar where I've entertained so many other areas of the industry in terms of racing. Him with the broadcast stuff is really interesting to hear because I'd say it's one of the few things, like, again, from racing, I haven't gone to dabble in some way. So I do like hearing his perspective a lot.
Yeah. He's a character, man. What did you think about me putting him on Mount Rushmore? Did you see that?
I did. I'm trying to think of who you had on Mount Rushmore. Him. Did you have Art Ekman on it as well? You had Ekman. Did you have David Bailey?
Nope.
No, it didn't have David. Didn't have David Spain. Who were your other two? It was Art Ekman, him.
I think it was him, Art Ekman, Larry Huffman.
Yep, gotta have Larry.
And I forgot the third one. Maybe it was
Big Mount Rushmore. He remembers.
Yeah. Anyway, Larry Myers.
Oh, see, I'm too young for the Larry. I know Larry Myers, but I know I've heard him, but it's not as ingrained in my mind as much as like Huffman is, of course.
Well, it's like we were talking, and it was like, when we were younger, we saw these guys on TV all the time, but they only did 10 years and they were over.
Yeah.
But we just been doing it for 20 plus.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that should earn you a spot right there, right?
Yeah. Well, I also feel for him because we saw like he had that rise where he started again and it kind of went the other way and now it's coming back for him. I know, at one point it's like, oh, he's going to be the guy. And then the rug kind of got pulled out from under him.
Well, now you have to listen to the podcast because he talks about
the rug getting pulled out on that. Yeah. Because heck, at one point he was even doing some NASCAR stuff.
Dude. And road racing?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anyway, let's get it back to you. So we give everybody a gift here for coming. So that's kind of your tangible takeaway. I just felt like you've been part of Team Yoshimura for so long that I got your very own Michael Lindsay special pen holder.
Anybody want to give me a pen right now?
Yeah, we can put it right here. We can right there.
I'm trying to think. This reminds me. There's a guy that does really good hip hop artists and like music artists interviews,
pens,
and he always does this. He gives everybody gifts. I can't remember the man's name. He's really eccentric. And he's a really good interview though.
What I got it from is Sean Ryan. I don't know if you watched Sean Ryan's show. He's like an ex-Navy SEAL that started a podcast that all these political figures and different people are on, but he gives everybody a gun. Like he's got somebody he knows somebody at 6 Hour, and he's like, here's your very own 9mm pistol. Like, and it's like, how am I supposed to take this on the plane? You know?
Figure it out. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guy. I think of hip hop. He's been around. He's a Canadian journalist. God, I can literally picture his face. I'm so bad with names. He's really cool. He does like. He'll do, of course, a deep dive on who he's going to interview, and he'll learn stuff down to like their childhood. Like he's done one with Kendrick Lamar and people like that, and he'll bring them a gift that is related to like a street they grew up on, a school, like stuff that's really hard to find. And usually when he gives them the gift, you see the people being like, this is really sick. How do you know this about me?
Yeah.
Who did you talk to from my childhood? Like bring them, something from like the local burger joint they used to go, or a record that like has something to do with their parents or something crazy like that. And I've always thought in moto it'd be so cool to replicate something like that.
Yeah. So I've tried to do that with with Weege. I gave him the golden mic. I don't know if you saw Little D, but I got this replica helmet from like 76. And he's like, where did you find this? I don't have anything like that. So kind of the same vibe is like, I didn't go deep as for you because I'm like, I'm trying to find people that know stuff about you. And I called Ross Maeda and he gave me some stuff to talk about. But I'm like, I need something to give Michael. I'm like, well, he's been on Team Yoshimura for so long, right? So figured, hey, now it's your own personalized piece that you get to stare at, which it could probably sit on your desk, but you're never home. So
I have an office in my house and I use it so little. I use it only when I do the podcast and occasionally when I'm doing photo editing, because other than that, I work on an airplane, out of a hotel. I work out of my pickup a lot. The amount of times that I pull over beside the road to get something done, or I'm at a track editing or offloading, or like Tarkarski's ride or something, I'm sitting in the truck doing a meeting or just offloading stuff. Yeah, I almost do more work out of my truck probably than I do out of my house.
Maybe I should have got you some tires for your truck. Something that'll be more. Anyway, so I just felt like there. Anyway, so this is, again, my perspective, maybe not your guys out there, but this is mine. I consider you to be the best technical editor in motocross. I mean, and it's not just my opinion, even though it is today, but you see a lot of comments and people are like, dude, nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about when you do, the shootouts, when you're going through a new bike, like the new Honda, like nobody dives in deep like you do and talks about the technical aspects of like what this means to change this or do this. They just talk about the bullet points sometimes. Right. And, it's just cool to have somebody that I always appreciate when people are so passionate and love what they do. And you can tell that you do that when you're going through a motorcycle and you're talking about the attributes, whether good or bad, you're so into it.
Yeah, for me, it was, naturally, yes, I do love all the technical aspects of the bike. I do love all the changes. I love learning about it. I think some of it is a little bit maybe necessity from the end of like, I sort of lucked into my job in a way at Vital, just kind of right place, right time. And it was because I was passionate about bikes. A lot of it comes from working for Ross Maeda at Enzo. Like he taught me a lot about testing and just got me so interested in the factory aspects of bikes and what race teams change and why they do it. And once I was able to sort of get my foot in the door of Vital, I was like, hey, this is probably the one thing I can do really different than most people. I grew up in a very mechanically inclined family, not strictly for motocross racing. My dad grew up with a family that had their own motorcycle and snowmobile dealership. At one point, they were the highest altitude Yamaha dealer in the country. So they grew up racing snowmobiles. They helped a lot with like jetting specs, development, stuff like that. He grew up racing desert, moto, snowmobiles, everything. But he turned into a heavy equipment mechanic. And my whole dad's side of the family, for the most part, from him behind, is all mechanics. Diesel mechanics, tech, stuff like that. So I grew up around a family where it's very much like, hey, not really taught, more like take it apart and figure it out and ask a question if you have it, but you should be able to figure it out if you take it apart. So I was always like that with our own bikes, just being around it. And yeah, when I drifted into the industry, it wasn't like I came in with a background of, I race professionally, I have a perspective on how it is to race or what a rider thinks. Not really that. I mean, I grew up racing, but I wasn't that good. So I didn't have that side of it for maybe journalism. I didn't even go to school in any way to be a journalist, if anything. it's funny, my job ended up being where it is because I don't have, I go back to when I was in school, my worst subjects were grammar, literature, English. My best subjects were history and science. So yeah, it's kind of weird this ended up being my job. So when it basically, getting back to it, is when I kind of got my foot in the door and got my chance in the motorcycle industry, I knew it was going to be off of being knowledgeable about bikes and using that passion to create something. So I just dove completely headfirst into it because I was at definitely a crossroad in my life in when I was like 21, where at the time it was a little confusing, but I got to thank Ross every day for this. I was working at the shop and he multiple times like almost pushed me out the door, just like, hey, you're not meant to sit in the shop all day and work on suspension. Like, there's something good for you out there. Like, you should go chase this, or you should go do something for a team, or you should go do that. And he was always like a big believer in me and really pushed me to not just be comfortable, because I thought it was cool as hell working for him and being in the shop and doing suspension stuff. And again, he was a big part of that. So when the door opened, it's like, well, okay, just dive on in, because I didn't think I had the other skill sets to do this. And I actually remember when I had my job interview for Vital.
Wait, don't go there yet.
Okay.
Hold on. I know you want to just keep going, but we'll get to the Vital. But what I appreciate like about you is that, yeah, there's a lot of people that know about engines and know about motorcycles that maybe worked at a dealership that have passion. But dude, the thing that freaks me out about you, and Ross said it too, he's like, dude, he can go on for 10, 15 minutes with no notes. It's all... it's in his brain. He remembers stuff, and it's like mechanics could probably do your job, but they need notes. Like it's the way you articulate it and like bring stuff up and like connect all the dots, dude. It's so. And again, I'm here blowing people's skirts up, right? But it's so rad that like it just shows that not only you're passionate and you're knowledgeable, but like you're really smart, dude. Like to bring stuff up, and that's one of the things when I talk to Ross, he's like. I'm like, tell me some stuff about Michael. He's like, that guy is so smart, dude. And like, he said it over and over again. So it's like, yeah, he is,
Yeah, I think back to my child, like I always, I kind of laugh because my dad is one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to how things work and being able to figure out how things work. He can barely turn a laptop on. I love him to death, but when it comes to actual technology, he is completely hopeless. But the way me and him would talk about things as a kid, like he'd come home from working on something, I'd ask him like, oh, what'd you work on today? And he would tell me about some hydraulic pump issue he was having on a large excavator, or a transmission issue or something with a powertrain. And I don't know what the thing looks like. I wasn't there. And he would just start explaining it. And I think me and him do have a very similar way of thinking in this way. I understand enough that if you start painting the picture a little bit verbally, I can sort of piece what it all looks together in my head and then explain it from there. And that's really gift, cool. Dude. If we're at a bike intro and they're explaining a part to me, like I don't have to have a diagram to see it. I don't have to sit and stare at a diagram or like info. If you start explaining to me, I'm like, okay, I can piece this together enough to understand it and then explain it. And that's how I grew up a lot, talking to my dad about his work. And that's usually when I like, whether at the races and we walk up a team, even if it's something I don't know a lot about, and this helped me in the early days when I didn't know a lot about a subject, I could still ask a couple questions and I could put pieces together in my head and then go, oh, well, this does this and this and this, and get a conversation going with somebody and continue to learn. So I was always really grateful too for, a lot of the techs at teams and engine guys and different guys I've talked to that would, take a minute to listen to my ramblings and go along with it, because I can just kind of take all that and piece it together. So that helps with the memory side of it, because I don't need to see diagrams. I don't need to see notes as much. As long as I can remember a couple stats about it, I can kind of piece it together from there. But I've never scripted anything. I'm terrible if I have to read. I'll have a note, but I can't read off anything. I do a terrible job of presenting and speaking. It might make, I do laugh is, I definitely am not the best at speaking at times. Like I kind of jumble words. I know I mumble at times. I know sometimes I use words in the wrong way. Again, back to I was not very good at grammar.
Anybody listens to you on the Vital Pods, they had the post-show races and stuff. Man, you could create a word like 2 words. It's like, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah. So that part I struggle with sometimes, because podcast is more of just, hey, us BSing, and that's how I am in real life, like joking around with my friends. I completely get jumbled on what I say all the time, but when it comes to just sitting down and presenting and talking about something technical about a bike, that's a lot easier for me to do. Because again, it's almost like I'm having a conversation with you, but in my mind, I'm doing what I used to do with my dad. I'm sitting there just looking at how things work in my head and like how a part would play out or how something works in an engine or a piece of suspension. I'm just going off of that visual.
Well, dude, honestly, that's a gift. Like, again, like you can have all the components, right? It's same like an engine, but unless you put it together right, and I feel like that's kind of your thing, you know. And I think, you know, when you're asking mechanics or the teams about stuff, you're like, dude, how do you know that? And it's just like, again, same thing with you. It's like you're piecing stuff together, and you're like, well, yeah, you can't do this without that, without this. So what are you doing with that, right? So
yeah, like that's changed on the outside, and the only reason you would do that is because it's got to affect this, or this. So which is it you're trying to do?
Yeah. So anyway, what's it like? I was just thinking, just as it pertains to your job at Vital, what's it like dealing with OEs and component companies, whether you praise their product or you have something negative to say about it? Is that something that is easy for you to do? And like, hey, dude, I got to keep the integrity of what we're doing here? Or is that a hard thing for you to juggle?
Yes and no. I know in the earlier days it was tougher because I think, you know, to the point you build a certain amount of respect, like whether it's my opinion, take somebody like Kiefer or somebody that's been around long enough that people after a while know if you know what you're talking about, and they'll respect it if you tell them like, hey, this is just flat out wrong. Where, yeah, the earlier days I did it, if I told somebody I had either a negative or a constructive criticism about something I've tried, you know, they would definitely question why I said that. I can be fair. I can be extremely blunt with people when we try something if I just think it's absolute garbage, or if it's good, or, you know, somewhere in between. So sometimes I got to be careful how I think I say it because I can hurt somebody's feelings. But I'd say the earlier days was tougher because you're trying to build a reputation. You're trying to build relationships with people enough that they understand, like, when you're being constructive. I think, like, again, sometimes I can come across harsh about items, so I have to be careful because it might give somebody the wrong opinion that I'm not interested. I'm interested in anything I'm handed to try. Yeah. I'm just very blunt on why. I just recently went to a product intro where it was a company integrating their product into another product, and the other product was something that I don't think extremely highly of, and I had all my reasons why. So we started the presentation, and they asked, oh, who's aware of this? And a bunch of us raised our hand, and they're like, anybody have an opinion on it? And out loud, I'm just like, meh. And the entire room laughed and looked at me, and then, sadly, the company we were dealing with, I don't have a relationship with, so 2 or 3 people at the company we were there for the presentation didn't want to talk to me the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Until
finally, that makes it hard for, like, the guys at Vital Ad Sales, because they're like, hey, I don't want to deal with your company because your guy picked our product apart. The very end of the day, though, I had a very nice, long conversation with certain people on their product team, because they were like, hey, why did you say what you did earlier? And I, explained in great detail why. And they're like, wow, they're a little caught off guard, but like, hey, we didn't realize that, or we didn't think about that, or we appreciate that, or hey, we'll look into that going forward. We'll keep an eye on that. Like, they're like, that's actually really good. But of course, like, so my first impression with them, I kind of maybe responded the same way I would to people I work with all the time at OEs or brands I've been around a long time, where I was just like, yeah, man, and they, it didn't. I gotta remember, it's just because I've done this long enough doesn't mean you can always respond like that for shot. Yeah. But to answer your question, with Vital itself or doing media, it's a sensitive subject because you have to keep your integrity.
You have to keep your integrity. You don't also want to, sometimes I know some people that almost purposely, when they find something negative, they will really go, oh, this is my opportunity to build reputation because I will show that I can be negative. And I think you have to be really careful to still not just because something is, if you do run into something that is bad, not just publicly be like, that's a POS. Like, you got to be constructive about it and show people that, again, you understand why it's bad, or maybe, like, I'll run into my case, I will greatly explain, like, this is why it doesn't work for me. I get what they're trying to do here. Like, this could work for this person or in this scenario.
Yeah. And again, that's one of the things I love about you too. It's just like, hey, this spade doesn't do this right. Mm-hmm. But you're like, you always look at the glass like, hey, maybe it could do this right. Or maybe, like, it's not just it's a POS because of this. It's like, hey, maybe they built it to do something different. I mean, you really look at the product from all different angles, I think, where maybe some people might just go, hey, this doesn't work right? Yeah.
I always try to look at, like, everything from, there's my opinion on how it works, and I have to weigh things that I uniquely do that I understand that are different than other riders, like things that are, my wheelhouse, stuff that I do that maybe the average Joe does. And then I look at the product from, of course, price point. How is big one I try to look at is manufacturing of like why something's made. Just because something doesn't do what I want it to do to a T, but if there's a reason for that in terms of manufacturing, like, hey, this is a price point product, and you know, the difference in the one thing I'm complaining about, I know from, let's say we're talking about a boot or something that has like a low, a mid, and a high tier. Hey, there's something I don't like in this low end boot that's really doesn't work for me, but I also understand based on learning so much about the product, hey, to change that one thing to get it to where it is in the high-end boot, it's like a $20 difference. It's something that's not capable in a low-end boot. Like, there's all these little things they can make better. Oh, that's only 5 cents more to make this like the high-end boot. That's only this, but this piece, it's just too expensive. It can't work in a low-end boot, and you have to sometimes, you know, take that into consideration, I think, with manufacturing. Be like, hey, it doesn't work for me, or I don't like this, but I understand it, because to get this better would put us in such a different price tier that, hey, they've done their best to hit the target they're trying to with this product. Yeah. Because it's also really easy, I feel like motocross, because I'm around cool stuff all the time, and I do say this about a lot of moto product, there isn't that many bad products in the space. Mm-hmm. Like we talk about the bikes, like people want to
it's not like the 70s where stuff was breaking all the time, right?
Like the conversation comes up all the time with, you know, pretty much any manufacturer versus Suzuki, and it's like, how is the Suzuki 450? And I can sit here and list off a bunch of reasons why it's not out of the box as good as other current 450s, but we're also nitpicking. The bike is still as a whole really good. Yeah. And yeah, that's
just when it stacks up against the competition.
Yeah. And again, you have to think that with all products. Again, we're so used to being around high-end products all the time, and it's tough because we speak to a really core niche of the most high-end, you know, users of the product, that sometimes you have to take a step back and go, yeah, this is great for 98% of the people doing this. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that are weekend warriors, etc., not just trying to be an elitist. Yeah, is probably the most simple way of putting it. Is try to take your elitist hat off every once in a while and just be like, hey, you know, there's a lot of people that just this comes up all the time when we do shootouts. People are like, why don't you switch tire? Why don't you switch a handlebar? Why don't you do this? And
that's not what it comes with.
And I see people comment, I don't know anybody that goes to the track that runs a stock. I'm like, look, yeah, I go to the races a lot, but I don't ride with friends from the industry. Really, all my friends I ride with are Joe Blows. Like I'm actually trying to think off the top of my head of my regular friend riding group. Like one works at a suspension company, one's a truck fab guy, one's another photographer, but none of them work like in it. I go look at their bikes. I walk around, talk to so many people on the track where people come and talk to me, and they ride up, and I'm like, that is a bone stock KX450. That guy has done nothing to it. It still has the stock rear tire that's completely wore out. It still has the stock sprocket on it. Like, for all the people that want to comment that nobody leaves this, nobody does that, everybody does this. Yeah, the elitist side of us in the industry think that everybody goes out and does everything. But I see so many people on a weekly basis that ride a 3-4-year-old bike that the only thing they've done is changed oil on it.
Yeah. And dude, that's the thing is, like, you know, sometimes, and that's, again, another attribute of yours is, like, you can think outside of that bubble. You know, there's an industry bubble. We're in SoCal. Like, there's a lot of people that you sit next to on an airplane all the time and all that stuff, and it's like you're in a bubble, right? Yeah. But you can get outside of that, like with your friends that you ride with or whatever. So that's a good thing. I want to go all the way back. Like, where did you grow up?
Right here in Southern California. So I was born in Pomona, California, moved to Wildomar, which is right between Temecula and Murrieta, basically the hot spot of where all the riders have lived, you know, when they've been SoCal guys. I've lived there since I was 6 months old, and I've just moved around that area, of course, as we all do for this work. Like, I travel all over the country and all over the world, but that's always been home. So I was very blessed and lucky, I guess, to be born and raised in the Mecca. I know SoCal is, of course, not what it once was, but I don't know. I was raised during a pretty good era through the 90s, riding local moto on 50s in the late 90s into the early 2000s, seeing motocross. I said motor. Seeing motocross at one of, I know it's not like the 80s peak, but to see it at the mid 2000s peak before the economy crashed, like being at Elsinore and Perris and how busy all that stuff was, and racing 50s when there was 5 divisions at a local race. It was really, it was really cool to be born and raised here, but also, like, yeah, my parents, again, I'm third generation rider from my dad's side of the family and my mom's, but none of them were involved in the industry. So my experience with the industry, with brands, with brand managers, with journalists, with all that was just like, hey, I'm around a lot of these guys. I've met them all in passing, but I never had anybody like I didn't have family directly connect me. So on one hand, I joke like I'm not a nepotism from I got my job because of somebody, but I also have a little bit of nepotism because I was also just lucky to be in around the right people in the right place. And then year-wise, I'm the exact same age as Tomac and Jason Anderson and Malcolm Stewart and Justin Barsha, and I'm 1 year older than Kenny. So it's really fun watching those guys race
cool
right
class.
now. Yeah, right. So it's this golden age of these guys that's kept going. Like raced a couple a little bit on 50s, but I got to grow up in their same age category and watch all of them through. Yeah. So yeah, just born and raised in SoCal, just happened to be around it most of my life and just around people, but didn't really start trying to maybe get into the industry or anything until like around the age of 15 or 16. A lot of people are local to SoCal will joke and remember that I worked at Perris Raceway for like...
Oh, wait, we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
I worked at...
I got to ask you what your first motorcycle was. Do you remember?
I actually started out on a three-wheeler when I was 3 years old. I can't remember what type of three-wheeler it was.
You're a man after Jason Wygant's heart.
Jason Wygant, I think...
or Swap.
Swap was three-wheeler. Yeah, Swap. I was 4 years old. I rode a friend's PW50, and my dad went out and bought me a Lem 50, a little Italian Lem, and then I ended up on Pellini's for the rest of 50 racing. It was kind of funny, like that 50 area, you had like Lems and Pellini's and Italojets, and then the Cobras and the KTMs. So it was funny when I would go to Hot Summer. There used to be so many 50s where now you just go to racing, it's like all Cobras and all KTMs. And yeah, so I started riding dirt bikes at 4 years old.
Okay.
And actually, I knew how to ride a dirt bike before I could ride a bicycle.
Yeah, it's funny. I was telling somebody the other day, I think my first bike was an MR50 Honda, but I think I got a motorcycle before I got a bicycle.
I had a bicycle, but it still had training wheels, and I remember it was a running joke. So the summer when I was 4 or 5 years old, we had a family friend named Chad Sparks staying with us. Chad was from Minnesota, and he used to be able to hold claim to being the fastest man out of Bella Plain. Then this guy named Ryan Dungy kind of came along, so that crushed it for poor Chad. So Chad came and stayed 1 or 2 summers with my family. I can't remember how they got connected in race nationals, and literally in our backyard, I remember them teasing me something about like, I think he got me to ride a bicycle because the joke was you can't ride your dirt bike till you can learn to ride your bicycle without training wheels. So I'm like, take training wheels off now. I want to ride the dirt bike.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I learned how to ride a bicycle is because I think the threat was you can't ride the dirt bike.
Yeah. Ross was telling me, and I'm just trying to get piece together your backstory. He said you raced moto and then you got into off-road. Like, did you do some work stuff after you?
Yeah. So when I was on super minis, I had a really bad. I had a couple. I made it pretty injury free until I was around 11 or 12, and then just little stuff like broke a wrist, some concussions, and then when I was 13, I shattered my ankle, fib, tore a bunch of stuff on my ankle, like spun my ankle around backwards, basically. Ooh. Broke the ball joint off the end of my humerus, broke my ball joint, or broke my upper arm in like 3 places, blew my shoulder out. I can't remember how many endless hours of surgery I had. I completely shattered my talus. So it's kind of funny talking about Jet's injury right now. Like, gnarly hats off to him because I had like a 6-7 hour surgery after I had 3 doctors tell me I was going to have my foot fused at 13. And I had one dude who took a chance on it. And I had like 15 external pins, and I was in a wheelchair for 3 or 4 months because I was no weight bearing. I couldn't use my shoulder either, so I couldn't be on crutches. Dude. So when we came back from that, we were going to still do moto. And then I remember one of the first times back riding, I think I had a bike blow up and I crashed. And then we just didn't try to ride moto for a couple weeks, went to the desert, got in a head on collision with somebody and redislocated my shoulder.
Dude.
And then after that, we're like, moto is tough. I think around that time too, construction, like around 2009, like my dad was out of work at one point and he broke his back and different stuff like that. So we eventually ended up off-road racing. I remember part of the reason work started is we had a friend out of Utah staying with us that was trying to ride Supercross that year. One of my dad's friends that he grew up racing with, his kid wanted to race Supercross. So he came down, stayed with us, and he became friends with Ricky Dietrich. And it was at the time that Ricky Dietrich was the defending works champion. And he came over to our house one day, and I see his truck pull up, and it's got a number 1 Kawasaki in the back. And I literally looked at him and go, what are you number 1 at? Like, yeah. What? And he explained to us what works was, and I was like, oh. And this was maybe November or December, and we looked up the schedule, and there was one in Arizona like a couple weeks later. And I went to that one. Funny one is Eli Tomac was at that too, because Eli did a couple works races in his B and his A year to get warmed up for nationals and stuff. So he was at the first one I went to in Surprise, Arizona. I'm trying to think of the track. It's closed now. It's in AZ, which poor everybody in AZ. They have like 2 tracks in the Phoenix area. One track
there's not
now.
a lot of land out there.
No, no, Speed World, that was the name of the track. So yeah, we did works for 2 or 3 years because there was more help with like Team Green and contingencies and bike dealership support to do that.
So all those injuries didn't sway you at all. Like, I still need to ride a dirt bike. That's what I want to do.
Absolutely not. Even with everything, I remember just sitting in a hospital for hours, just laying there and going, oh, okay, well, we'll get through this eventually. Like,
I'm young. I'll heal.
It's fine. It's fine. They were talking about having to do multiple surgeries and my leg didn't grow, all this crazy stuff, and it all worked out fine. But no, I just didn't know anything else. I didn't really in school. I didn't play any other sports. It's funny, I have 2 older half brothers that were both like college basketball stars and stuff like that, and they're completely different builds than me. Like Tice is probably 6'5", probably this broad in the shoulders. He's just an absolute beast. And then Mitch is quite a bit bigger than me. I ended up, I don't know what happened to me genetically. I'm all torso, no arms and legs. I always joke that I got built out of a Friday bin, 5 o'clock on a Friday out of a bargain bin.
Just so that
because I'm proportionally nothing works. I sit in an airplane and I look tall because my torso's tall, so my head sticks up way above the seat. But meanwhile, my legs are dangling like I'm 12 years old sitting in a chair. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm all screwed up. So I didn't really fit any other sports. Growing up in school, I didn't honestly have I had a lot of issues in school. I had no friends, I think. So moto was always my escape. My mom would pick me up from school at 3 o'clock when we'd get out with a dirt bike in the back of a truck, and we'd literally go straight to Elsinore. I grew up 7 minutes from the Elsinore track and 18 minutes from Perris Raceway. So went to Perris every Tuesday night for mini night. Ended up at Elsinore probably on Wednesday or Thursdays because they would let us ride till dusk, especially, towards spring and fall when it was daylight out all day. And yeah, I just wanted to ride a dirt bike. That's all I only had friends at the dirt bike track, really. So that's all we would do.
Did you do the LEAB on track school? Did you?
I was one of the first students, yes, because of the injury I told you about. Like I was in a just like kind of a sort of, I guess, a private school for kindergarten to 8th, and then I was going to go to a public high school in Elsinore, and that injury put me in a wheelchair for long enough that I was going to have to start school in a wheelchair, and I already had, like I said, a lot of problems with bullying.
I'm already getting bullied out there.
I was already getting bullied a lot. I got locked in a locker. I got tied to a basketball pole. I got put in a trash can and rolled down a hill. I got stranded on a roof. It's a good thing
there's no lockers in motocross, because I think people would still put you in there.
Yeah, I got stranded on a roof. Somebody took a ladder away when I went to get a ball, and everybody tortured me. So stuff like that. I just like, okay, so my parents like, I guess we'll put you in this on track thing. You want to ride moto when you come back? We really can't send you to school when you're still not weight bearing and stuck in a wheelchair. Because at that point I was in an electric wheelchair.
They might like take your wheelchair and just roll you into Lake Elsinore.
They'd probably take the battery out of it, something. So we met at the time, the LEAB family, Andrea, and Michael and them and Dawn, they were living like 15 minutes from us. So we met them, and you'd have to ask, I think I was one of the first 10-ish students, maybe in that range, 10 to 15 kids that went through on track. And I honestly really enjoyed it, of course, because I got to stay in moto and be at the track. And honestly, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met Ross as much. Like, because around that time, when I did that, I used to see Ross at Star West like I think it was every Monday, and just started meeting more people that way because I do my schoolwork. And I had some follow-up injuries, like I'd mentioned to that. So I completed high school really quickly. I think I did high school in like 2.5 years because I was hurt so much. I was at home and it's
just do the work.
I can play video games and do schoolwork, I guess. And the only other thing I do, go to the track, and I started taking pictures a little bit with this dinky kit camera my mom had. So that's actually, there's a whole nother thing how I got into photography a little bit doing that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
But yeah, so if it wasn't for, I would say there's two main things that, there's three main things that got me in the industry. One is being born and raised in Southern California and around the Mecca Moto. The second one was the on-track school thing, because I got to be around the track so much during, my mid to late teens. And then again, because of that, I met Ross.
Yeah.
And, and I met Dawn, and I met Kiefer, and just all these people that I connected with during that time. And, through all those relationships, eventually ended up where I did.
So you raced amateur quite a bit, or no?
Yeah, just a bit locally. We did a couple years. We did Loretta's qualifiers and stuff.
Did you ever qualify for Loretta's?
I think I may have come close. I can't remember if we did in 12 to 13 when I got hurt. The rest of the time, no, I'd always miss just by a little bit. SoCal was always again my age group. It's like I go to a qualifier and it was like Baggett and Dean and kids like that in it, and Paloozies, our age group. I'd just be like, well, I'm hosed.
Yeah.
Travis Baker, a lot of really, really good kids. If you go back and watch, go back and watch like Verb Moto's Epic video. Again, a lot of those B-class kids I'm the same age as. And then you go back to Ryan Walters' Golden Era film. Most of the kids that are in the Golden Era film were in my age group. And that was a really, again, a Golden Era, really cool era.
Travis Baker. I remember working with him at Answer.
Answer, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a Baxter.
Yeah, he's a cop now.
Really?
He's a firefighter or a cop? I think he's a cop. Yeah, he still rides.
His dad was awesome.
Protect dude. His dad, up until a few years ago, I used to see him at Kahia every week with his buddy still riding.
Yeah.
Because his dad protected suspension, did like jet ski engines and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you talk about the local tracks. Maybe just talk about a little bit of the memories. There was so many local tracks. Obviously, Perris, Elsinore, but like Star West, which is gone now, Milestone. Yeah. Like there was so many tracks, Kahia, and maybe just touch a little bit about those tracks. Did you work at Perris?
Yeah, I did. So local tracks. Yeah, we grew up riding. I mean, again, Perris and Elsinore were so close to the house. I spent so much time there. I would argue I have got to be inside the top 10 people that ever amount of laps spun at Perris Raceway.
Do you think you have like Perris dirt in your veins?
Something. I would do best at local races there. I remember when I came out of off-road, I went and did some local hot summer night races, like jumped right in pro class and could run decent pace because I knew the track like the back of my hand. Go get my ass whooped anywhere else, but like total track specialist. I rode there so much at the time. But yeah, so I was in SoCal when Fox Race. I remember when Milestone opened. I remember hearing about that and going to that place and all the tracks and crazy people were rows. But like Milestone was actually super sandy for the first year and a half it was open. It had this sand roller section and then it just all got, compacted in eventually because it was originally like a horse racing arena and horse facility. Mm-hmm. So the dirt changed a lot over the years. A lot of Comp Edge when I was younger. Racetown, always loved Racetown 395. So those tracks are gone now. I kind of
Comp Edge too.
I'm not a Glen Helen person. We race so much REM there. I've crashed so much there. I am so terrible at Glen Helen. And it's always funny you run into people more when I first started traveling, I'd run into just more like local moto people in areas and I'd be like, oh, I'm from SoCal and they'll be like, oh, how close do you live to Glen Helen? I'm like, yeah, like 45 minutes. Oh, you must go there all the time. They see the national and they're like, it's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's not a great track to practice at. Sketchy, all this stuff happens. Like, no,
I always tell people, like, dude, like, why would you go to Glen Helen to have fun, right?
Yes.
You would go to Glen Helen if you're a pro rider, getting ready, because that track throws everything at you, right? But if you were just going out there to have fun, like, you're crazy.
But I think it's like any national track. Because I remember one year I was going to Buds for an intro. I was telling somebody as I knew back, they're like, oh, I finally get to ride Buds. And I'm like, good luck. They're like, same thing. They're like, you know how you talk about Glen Helen and we all say we want to try and you say it's not that good on a practice day? They're like, Buds is the same way. Great national, terrible practice track. Thunder Valley's kind of like that. Amazing for the national. I've been there on practice.
The Beasleys, do they still?
Yeah, the Sun runs it now.
Okay, yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on his name. The Sun's really awesome. He's done a really good job with the place since he took over. Thunder Valley, I think most of the national tracks are the same way. They are not really the best practice tracks, but they, like any of them, you put enough work in for a national day, they're pretty sick. So yeah, we used to have so many tracks. I mean, we had Zaka, we had Verona Oaks, LACR, I rode the old LACR. Which was the craziest thing jumping in out of the sandpit. That track, like, actually, when I think back to it, it's kind of mentally nuts how it was built. Grew up riding Verona Oaks. I laugh every time I go to Verona still because if you ever watched the movie Motocross, the old Disney movie, that was all filmed at Verona Oaks. It's still really fun going down there because that has a different vibe. Yeah, and we've just a couple of private tracks here and there. I actually got to ride when I was 4 or 5 years old. I got to go to Carlsbad right before it closed for a KTM dealer day for a 50. So, like, I think within a year of Carlsbad closing, I got to experience it. But yeah, we just used to have so many options. And of course, like anywhere in the world, we're still lucky for the tracks we do have, but it is very much dried up. And then, yeah, the Perris thing. So, because on track school, I was just at the tracks all the time. Kirk Chandler and his family was one of the two owners of, like, when they started Fox Race, what was Paula Raceway at the time, and then they got into a lease agreement with Perris Raceway, and then they had that, like, fast pass system with the guys at Milestone. But at one point, they were operating Fox or Paula Raceway and Perris Raceway. And I just in passing, he said something to me one day, like, "Oh, what do you do during the week when you're not riding?" Because I just turned 16, had truck to drive. He's like, yeah, do you want to work at the track? And I think I worked at Paula for like a week as like a flagger and watering guy. And I'm like, dude, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go I'll go operate heavy equipment or something pays way better. I'm not going to drag hoses around all summer. He's like, oh, just I guess relationship wise, they're like, oh, do you want to do more of the office work and the booth stuff? So everybody, quite a few people remember I was at Perris for like a year and a half, and it helped me fund racing because at one point, again, I got hurt and I had nothing better to do because my foot was in a cast. And I just would take every shift there. I'd be there like 60 hours a week just sitting in the booth. The funniest thing is when we'd close midday for prep, I would hobble on crutches with this tiny little portable TV, and I'd play MX versus ATV Unleashed in the booth during the breaks between, because I wasn't going to go home for an hour. I packed lunch. I wasn't going to leave the track for an hour. So I'd be in the little booth just playing MX versus ATV between the morning and the afternoon riding sessions while they were prepping. I also fell in the driveway of the track. Is really gravelly. I was on crutches and I was trying to haul the little money box back to the office because it was like a race day, and after we got set amount of cash, we had to go drop it off. I slipped on the crutches and the one went over my head and yanked and popped my shoulder out. So then I'm laying in the driveway like this.
You're a medical mess, bro.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's funny. Kiefer still jokes about a few guys remember me working there for a good year and a half or two. And yeah, just same thing. Was just always around all the right people. And I just met all those guys that way.
Speaking of tracks and what's happened here in Southern California, do you think there's a knowing what you know now at your age and kind of that you understand a lot more about maybe property, you're getting ready to get married, all that stuff, right? Do you think there's a chance or an opportunity for somebody to open a BMX motocross club, like have a track, have a full on, like, hey, you're come here for $300 a year, you could do this, like, and just have more of an established thing, like it's not out in the dirt field somewhere. It's more of an established like club. I mean, do you think that there's something like that could happen here in Southern California? Because there's a lot of people that have money here, right?
Yeah.
And maybe people are like, hey man, I don't have to travel an hour and a half or 2 hours out to Kihia from Orange County. Maybe something like that is viable. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
A couple thoughts. So I've been thinking about tracks a lot because I see, of course, with LACR's closure and a lot of people talking about insurance and this and that, and a lot of people point fingers at why tracks close. One of my first comments is, and I feel like I go on a once every 3 month rant on the forum because I'll go to when I don't. Because I go ride during the week with friends that can get off during the week. But then when we actually had off season or the one like this weekend, we have a weekend off of racing, I'm going to the track with my friends to go ride. That's what I do almost every single time I don't go to a race on the weekend. I'm at Fox or Kihia that weekend riding with my buddies. I go there and I am baffled. And this is not talking about how absolutely stupid people are. Like, I say this like, hey, you can blame
those
high
people
insurance
are on
costs.
the freeways, dude.
You can blame tracks cost too much this. Everybody, like, kind of, I say that, look inward, like the amount of poor decisions I see, the typical, like, people joke about, but SoCal, the amount of people you see way more. Hey, guys that just off landings stop in the middle of the track to get off the track with their buddies and people land on them. Lack of flaggers, poorly built sections. You go tell guys, water guys spray guys' faces, guys doing wheelies through the pits and looping out, Surons everywhere, kids crashing into the side of pickups, just like terrible decision on terrible decision. Go back to my GH complaints. Cool. Get on the start straight. There's a water truck crossing the track with no flaggers and nothing that me and Villo almost hit broadside last year. And I go tell the management, and they're like, oh, that's not our guy. That's somebody working for the SR race. I'm like, cool, they're on your track with a water truck. Like, whether it's the tracks, whether it's the flaggers, whether it's riders, everybody, I'm like, it is still so wild, wild west. And, in modern day society, we kind of can't get away with that without something going
Well, that's my
wrong.
point is, like, do you think, like, because of that, there could be a better, well-established, hey, man, you pay, I don't know, I even call it $1,000 a year. But I think, if people had a place to ride and it was safe and there wasn't water trucks crossing the thing and it wasn't 2 hours to go drive to, I mean, do you think that something like that could happen? You could actually make that case for anywhere in the country, right?
During COVID, we had, situation where, SoCal is one of the most shut down states in the country, but we were still within a month of the shutdown riding because tracks like especially Kihia that was on Indian land that can kind of operate on their own basis. They were doing more of these, and LACR was doing a few others. Like they instead of doing public ride days, they were doing private ride days. It'd be max like 20 people. You were on email list. It was more money. It was like $50 or $60, but it was like cool.
Nobody had a problem.
There's only 20 of you. That means we only have to have 1 or 2 flaggers floating around because there's not enough of you to screw each other up. Like we can keep it really low key.
Water the track as much.
And the amount of guys, like, I know this gets back to my elitist comment. You got to be careful how you say this, but yes, there is a market for, and I've run to guys like, hey, I would gladly go during the week get off of doing the weekends, like the people that have the ability, because motorsports is, don't get me wrong, we both know moto, like everything, is getting more expensive, but compared to any other motorsport you can go do, it is still one of the most financially viable. It is crazy to me that tracks were $20 and, this many years later, knowing how much diesel costs, knowing how much the heavy equipment costs, knowing how much the insurance is, the land leases, everything, like, yeah, track's only $40. I've told multiple track owners, like, dude, hey, as much as I spend, everybody shows up at the track, complains about they raise the price from $40 to $50. Dude, you're driving an $80,000 Duramax. You've got this brand new bike. I know that's not everybody. I know there is the struggling family out there that's
spent $150 in gas to get here.
All the stuff. I'm like, I've told many track owners this. I'm like, I would rather pay an extra $10 for you to have better staff, to have just better conditions, maybe cap for the weekend if you have to. Hey, we can only have 100 riders, but we're going to charge a little more. Or what I've run into a lot, and it's my biggest complaint about Southern California riding in general, is the fact that we don't do split practice. You go anywhere else in the nation, like, it is absolutely asinine and ridiculous. I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to say that word on this podcast. You go to Fox Raceway during the week, or Glen Helen, or any of these places, and you've got somebody like Jorge Prado riding, myself, a bunch of, like, such a huge mix. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle. I do everything, but still, even Jorge passing me, or when the Lawrences are in town, or when Marchbanks is out there just sending it. I'm like, I'm in this guy's way. And then here's a kid on a 50 working with his dad with some trainer. And I've had this happen where I've gone up to a dad and I try to say as respectfully as possible, hey man, your kid is sick for a kid on a 50. He is shredding, but it's Pro Tuesday.
Yeah, but it's not their fault.
The track is ripped so deep, like, your kid's little tires, like, I almost murdered him last lap because he has to roll two of the biggest jumps on the track. I mean, he's like, I'm talking about some kids I've seen.
Why don't they split practice?
Don't know. Bring it up all the time. Don't know, man. I don't know.
Here's your chance track operator split practice here in Southern California.
But the lack of, again, I go back to just the basics of, hey, and you can point fingers, everything, and I think, like, okay, Elsinore right now is really trying to do things different. I give a huge props off to Jason Baker and Brian Wallace over there of trying to do that. Like, hey, it's a little bit more money. We're running one track. We're doing very segmented split practices. We're doing vet-only days. We're doing stuff like that because they're dealing with it, reopening that track after the issues they had with their last death on the track with insurances and what are required. Like, hey, we have to do things a little different. And I think a lot of tracks could learn from that because there are so many times, like I said, I'm going to the track as a local to just have fun with my buddies. And I'm like, this almost isn't fun. I'm having a great time with my friends. But I see how sketchy everything is, how scary it is, and they're all motocross.
But you're an experienced guy. What about those?
Motocross is a tough sport, and we get that, and I accept all the risks when we go do it every day. It's just the really unnecessary stuff that I think damages our sport, that looks bad. The headlines of 10-year-old kid dies because somebody lands on this, the stuff that's ultra preventable. And back to what I was saying about that mini conversation, I go to the dad, I'm like, hey man, your kid is sick. Like, he is ripping, but I almost landed on him, and Jorge just had jumped off the track not to kill him. Like, it's just not the right time or day. Yeah. And I try to say something, and the dad just looks at me and goes, why don't you be more careful around my kid then? And I said, okay. And I just wrote off, and like, I'm not coming to his funeral. Like, geez, like, I know it's the same thing. Everybody in life is a little more selfish. Everybody focus on themselves, but there's just basic across the board for the people that come to the tracks, the track operators, the way the sport operates in general from a local level. Yeah, there's a lot of little things we could do to be safer, be more organized, to put on a better experience. And I think
more people would be into the sport, right? Because if they could go, if there's split practices and there's a club that you could be a part of, that you could pay into, like on a monthly basis or a yearly annual membership, like, I just feel like we're in that time where, like, people will pay for it, dude. Like, if you have a nice place, people will pay, a country club, so to speak. Like, people will pay to be a part of that, right? Instead of just going, I hope people come today so we could pay for the water truck to...
Which, again, I understand the struggles of the average track owner. Like, I think just different structures of days, again, thinking like motorsports clubs and stuff. Yes, there is your high-end clientele and your low-end clientele. It could all work out. I think one of the other things that's crazy to me is, okay, example, you go to a go-kart track. You go to, I think, anything it's motorsport track, and you get like a sit-down of, okay, this is our track layout. Yep. Here's your entrance. Here's your exit. Here's our basic rules. Yeah. And everybody just assumes in moto that every person driving through the gate races and knows all these rules. And the amount of people, like, I'm one of the first people to do this, and I don't do this I try not to do this to be an asshole, but the amount of times I'm at a track where, yes, I land off a jump, Because again, like I'll go cruise around the vet track with my friends because that's about their level. And I'll just go out there and just ride around with them. My fiance rides, so like about her skill, like I just go out there and ride with my friends and putt around. And we'll come off some table and somebody will just land and exit the track or stop in the middle of a jump and different stuff. And I pull those guys aside. I'm like, hey, man.
Dude, they drive on the freeway like that.
I don't know how long you've been riding. And I try and be like, dude, you cannot get on and off the track there. And they're just like, why not? And it's not like some of them are belligerent, but some of them really don't know because they're just like, yeah, I just got a bike and I came track. I'm like, hey, great idea. If you're going to exit a track, don't ever do it on landings. Do it in a place. Don't ever do it coming into corners where you got to jump over a berm. Kind of explain like here's the layout of this track. Here's probably 3 places you could get off there really safe. Here's why I would do. And just, you just talk to them and you're like, hey, most of them are not like every once in a while you won't get one mad knows what I'm doing. A bunch of them are like, hey, I just got into riding or like my friend did. Sorry, I didn't know any of this. Yeah. And just an absolute lack of education. I know there's been like the USMCA thing and like there is better resources for people.
I mean, what happened to the Brett Downey Foundation too, right? Like,
yeah, it's just some of the safety stuff. I think I understand that tracks have a lot of pressure, but screw it if prices have to be raised $10 a person of this or that or something. I just think the environments need to be safer and better because again,
agreed.
Why so many people joke about I want to go to an off-road, like they'll go do an off-road race for the weekend because for their price they get more riding, bigger tracks, more spread out. It's and some I know some guys I run into that are really picky, like, oh, the track conditions or this or that. Again, we're always spoiled in SoCal. Tracks are prepped all the time. Could stuff be built safer sometimes? Yeah, you can always argue that, but I think it's just the way that people operate could create such a better environment. Because I also feel about the elitist because you got the guy there that doesn't know what they're doing, hasn't been taught any better, and you got the elitist guy that's got the $20,000 vet bike who's done it for 40 years. It's maybe says that they raced with Bob Hand in the 80s as a pro. I love that one in SoCal. How many guys like, I raced Rick Johnson, but have this high opinion of themselves, a sport and everything, and they're laughing at that person. And I feel bad. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's probably made fun of somebody who looks like a dork at a track, but a lot of those guys need more grace, and we got to make the sport more inviting. We always talk about the amount of like, hey, is the sport really growing? Like, need to excavate the high end clientele. I think needs a different option, but I also think there's a lot of things that could be done to make it more inviting for people. I think just the one thing, hey, a track's open this day, anybody come and ride. It's this amount of money. I don't know if that the wild west style of just let's see how many people we can pack in a track on open practice is really the way to go anymore. I think you got to cater each way and try to eliminate some of the really poor decisions.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get Michael Jordan to operate a motocross track. So let's talk about Enzo. How'd you meet Ross? He said you started testing stuff with him, and
so the first time I, like a lot of guys, like Ross.
We're going through his career here.
Ross is one of the coolest dudes. I mean, by far none. Just like I think most people, man, just ran into him at Star West one day. He used to go every Monday in his little Enzo box van. He had his little riding group, and I would just say hi to him and roll up and ask him questions and just BS a little bit. Like I didn't know him super, super well at the time, but just enough like, hey, this is a guy I see at the track and I kind of know who he is and what he's about. And did I say I was at the track the day he got injured, but I left before I left before he was injured, but enough that years later we talked about it. I mean, I knew exactly what layout he was talking about and everything. Went to his fundraisers. But didn't really, after his injury, I didn't know him well enough to talk to him, like go see him while he was hurt or anything like that. And then randomly, maybe 2 years after his injury or something like that, he messages me on Facebook and he's like, hey, where are those photos you told me you were going to send me? And I'm like, and I had started shooting photography a little bit. I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm like, what photos? He starts explaining. And then he goes, oh my God, I clicked on my friends list, the wrong Michael to message. Like, I'm sorry, I was hung this Italian buddy who was supposed to send me something from a GP or something. And I laughed. And then we just started messaging about like the race that weekend and bench racing. And then we just would just randomly text and catch up here and there. And then one of the times I got re-hurt riding again, I was down out with nothing to do. And he's like, oh, what are you up to? I'm like, that was time I'm like, oh, my entire existence right now, I'm done with school. I'm just sitting at the track working at the booth here because I'm casted up again. I got nothing better to do with my life. So I just go to the track and I go home. It's like, oh, come by the shop, have lunch. Like, so I started driving out to OC and just hanging around the shop with him a little bit.
That's a pretty good drive from Wildemar to Santa Ana.
How I started doing that because Vital's office also was out there at one point. So at one point in my life, I was making that drive 4 to 5 times a week.
Dude.
So I just started, luckily fuel was a lot cheaper then. I would just show up at the shop, hang out with him, take him to lunch. Ross has his health struggles with me in a wheelchair, and I would take him to like doctor's appointment, meet him at the gym and hang out while he was doing stuff. Then we'd go to lunch. I'd just hang around the shop. And as I got better, it turned into, hey, do you want to try some parts? I'm like, dude, I know nothing about testing. And he was just like, just give me some honest feedback. So he would, first couple times, built me something. Then one day he came to show, he's like, hey, you can try this, but all the parts were laid out. Put that together. Have Yoshi tell you how to put that together. So I assemble something and then go try it. And then he called, hey, I got to go to this test. I got nobody to come help me because he can't get in and out of the box van. So started going to team tests. I think one of the first times he ever asked me to do that, I went to like a test with Villapoto and Factory Cowie with him, like first day in the box van with him, which was cool. So saw how he worked.
What a cool mentor.
Started doing that stuff, started hanging around the shop all the time. Then it was like, hey, can you work in the shop? Which at one point was a really weird part of my life because I would stay at his house and like Will Decker that worked for him, Will would always go in at like 5 a.m. because Will wanted to get stuff done before customers started calling and bugging. So I'd go in at 5 a.m., work with Will on customer stuff till like 11 o'clock noon. Then Ross would be like, hey, I'm at the gym, come pick me up or come meet me here. Let's go get lunch. I go to lunch with him. We'd BS. I'd hear amazing stories from him because he's an amazing storyteller for an hour or two. Go back to the shop. Then I'd start working on team stuff with him and he wants to test. And I'd be there till 9 o'clock at night with him because he would be working on something.
And then you go back to his house to sleep.
And get back up at 5 a.m. and go with Will again. So stuff like that, service stuff started like depending how busy he was, help with team tests, help in the shop and floated around there for a couple of years.
It's funny, when I was talking to Ross the other day, he's like, hey, so he's like, yeah, Yoshi named him Talking Boy, right? And I said, how did that happen? He's like,
I didn't know that for a long time.
Yeah, he's like, I'm like, how did that happen? He's like, yeah, that guy's here. It's a Talking Boy.
Yeah, so it's funny so that was like my original nickname, and Don Maeda still calls me that, and a few people, Luke Boyk that basically replaced Bones at Pro Circuit. A few people call me that, and that was a nickname I picked up at Enzo. And for the longest time, I thought Ross nicknamed me that because he was the first person I ever heard say it. And he has me in his contacts in his phone still as Talking Boy. All my spec sheets at Enzo say Talking Boy for all the tests.
So I also heard that Will Decker, he's like
trying to throw me in a...
No. He said that Will, I'm like, because Will's just about getting his work done, right?
Yeah,
and getting his thing. He's like, he said something about, I'm like, how did he put up with Michael? He's like, oh, dude, he's like the radio. He's just on in the background. You just like, he's just talking all the time. And like, if you need to ask him something, you just break in, but he's just going.
Yeah, I just go between talking to Yoshi or Peel. Will actually threatened to throw me in a suspension cleaning machine one day because I was blowing out like a piston with an air chuck, and nothing bothers my hearing, so I had it like point blank, and it's like screaming, whistling as I'm blowing this out. He walks over, grabs the air chuck, and he's like, if you do this one more time, see that cleaner right there? I'm shoving you in it, closing the door.
You're like, that's nothing compared to a locker.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I love Will to death, though. But so I'm trying to think back with working for us. Yeah, I don't know, he just taught me so much. He's such a genuine guy, especially like I remember one point working for him, and I think it's like day before Christmas, like 2 days before Christmas.
I think he's one of the most grounded, down to earth guy that you could just walk up to and ask a question.
Yeah,
and he'll tell you.
Yeah, he'll break it all down. My favorite was going to lunch with him, and about the whole like processing stuff in my head, I'd be like, well, what is this part doing this? And he kind of saying, but he always likes to get out. He has a sketchbook or he gets a napkin out and he starts drawing. Oh, see, this piston does this to this. And he would start drawing stuff all the time. So he would teach me a lot of stuff to do that. He would just start like sketching stuff out all the time.
So that's where you learned about suspension, really, like and how it works and what it does.
Testing and just giving honest feedback and how to relay with people. Because with him, we would jump through so many teams. I mean, at one year when I was working for him, he would help so much. He helps with anything that's a factory KYB project. And
he told me yesterday. I didn't mean to interrupt you, dude, but he told me yesterday. He's like, okay, when we're going out testing, don't say anything. Just sit in the box fan. I'll let you know. He's like, don't talk to any of these teams. I'll do all that stuff. You just ride the motorcycle.
Yeah. So we would go like. One year we were helping Jeff Ward Racing. We were helping, there was an NFAB Yamaha team that was like Nicoletti and a couple guys. And then there was this Velocity 3 Yamaha team, which made it like 6 rounds apart. They were helping Star. They were helping the Factory KYB projects, which was like factory Yamaha at the time. Plus I think Cowie still for a year before they went to Showa. And I just got on the list. So it was like every week we were dealing with different people, different tests, different stuff. So there was just so much, like I ran into so many people and how they all talk to each other, how everybody downloads so many different personalities, just like a real almost like cram session of learning how to work with these guys because there was just so many of them. And Ross is just the kind of guy like great example, getting back to what I was saying was it was like 2 days before Christmas. He hits me up. So the next day was going to be Christmas Eve. He's like, hey, are you doing anything tomorrow? I'm like, no, why? Can you meet me at the Yamaha track first thing in the morning? We got it like the team Chisholm was riding for, or whatever he was going to do fell apart. He just went by Yamaha. I want to help him. So I'm going to stay at the show late tonight and build stuff.
I want to help somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to help. Like, we need to go test with him tomorrow. Do you have time? I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you there. Meet him at the Yamaha track at 9 a.m. Sitting there waiting for him to show up. And yeah, like that's the kind of stuff he would do. It'd be over Christmas break. Like, everybody has worked with him because he's worked with pretty much almost every major, especially when you talk about the 80s, the 90s, and through the 2000s. Every single guy that's won a major championship at some point in their career, they probably worked with Ross. Because again, even if they're a factory KYB, when they would run into an issue, Cowie would do this with James stuff. You know, Fisher, one of those guys called, hey Ross, can you come help us for the day? We're a little stuck on something. Yeah. And he'd come give his input. So
it's so cool because when I was talking to him, he was giving, you can't get on the phone with Ross for less than an hour. Oh, and the stuff he was telling me yesterday, he's like, you can't tell anybody this, but then it's like he's got all these crazy stories like that people don't know. Right?
He's an amazing storyteller. He comes across so dry, but he's really anime when he tells a story, and he's
like he won't tell you a story if he doesn't trust you either, right? Because it doesn't want it to get out. You know?
I always laugh. We had a thing called blue towel. So a joke, there would be questions I would ask him, or one day I can't remember what he was working on in the shop, and as I walked in, he had a little blue paper towel and he threw it over, and I said, "What's that?" And he's like, "Blue towel, can't tell you." And it became a running joke to the point we would make jokes about Ross always likes to make all those little stickers that go on the side of the fork, like when the PSF1 air fork came out. It would say like Enzo Technica at PSF1, and then he did one when they would have spring tubes in it, and we were joking about stickers one day, and I'm like, you should make one that says Enzo Technica TSS system. And then when people come up and go, what does that mean? You'd be like, I can't tell you. It's top secret shit. TSS means top secret shit. I'm like, see how long it takes them to figure out TSS means top secret shit, and you're just screwing with them. Yeah. But he would always, he would text me something like, sometimes I'll text him a question that's like a really high level, like, hey, I think I figured something out. And he'll just text me back, goes, blue towel shit. I don't know if I can tell you this one.
That's awesome. So then the Enzo thing led to the Vital thing? Like, how did Enzo go into the Vital? Did you start at Vital as a test rider? Like, how did that?
Yeah, so there was a guy working there at the time named Bio Lucaton. He was a content manager. Guy B, Steve Giberson, Guy B there, but Sprack was the director at the time. Bio was working there. And, just like I can't remember how, that's the other thing about being like a fan of the sport. I was a big forum guy. So like, Moto News, Pro Ride, and
all this stuff is prepping you to be the content director.
I just spent so much time on the forums and being a fan of the sport and what was going on. And I remember I met Guy B multiple times. I kept asking, like, hey, if you guys need any help with anything, let me know. Because I think at the same time I'd asked Don Maeda that one time. And this is really funny. I always tease Don about this. Like, he used to blow me off a lot before I worked with Ross. And he actually told me at one point, because he's like, I always used to see you just walk around and talking to everybody, and I thought you were just some super fan trying to be like in the industry. And then when I started working for Ross, I know at first Don was nervous because and I've seen it too, a lot of people take advantage of Ross's kindness. Yep. And I remember Don telling me,
but it's cool. What's cool is that doesn't stop him.
No, it doesn't. Ross still does what he wants to do and helps the people he feels like he should. And again, I've learned a lot from him and just how to treat people. But Don, remember one year he came, he's like, yeah, I used to be worried that you were just gonna be another hanger-oner of my brothers just to get free cool stuff. And I remember one of the first times I called Don, I was like, literally like, hey, because Ross would never call him about his health issues. I'm like, hey, heads up, he's in the hospital. I went to my doctor's appointment, this or that. And, it became like family. I always joke that Ross is like a second dad to me, and I use that verbiage a lot. Don one time goes like, so does that make me like your uncle? I'm like, I don't know. Don't push it, man.
Uncle swap.
Yeah. Don already has a couple people like Air D, like Casey that worked for him, and Anton. He's like an uncle to some people. But yeah, just being around them. So I remember I'd bugged Don a few times, but Transworld in the heyday had, a lot of people involved. So there was never really maybe an opportunity. I just kept bugging the Vital guys, and Guy B connected me with Bio. And one day they just called me like last minute, like, hey, we don't have a guy. Do you want to come ride this KX 250 at Comp Edge for the day? I'm like, sure. What do I got to do? Yeah, just come ride it. We'll bring some gear for you to wear. And Cowie's, I was riding Cowie's. So I'm like, Cowie's really well. This new KX 250. We just need you to talk on camera. Mm-hmm. They're like, we know you can talk. I'm like, fuck, I've never done it on camera, but okay. So
you can talk.
Showed up and did
Bio
it.
Knew you well already.
Yeah, and I go back and look, and it's so painful to watch. But compared to what was out at the time, I got really good feedback because it was, broke down a bunch of stuff and talked about it. And they're like, hey, let's have you out for another one. So then there was a Yamaha intro. It was the
What year was this?
2013. So
Okay.
early 2013, I started doing a couple bike tests for him, which was just like, hey, I get some gear and I pay my way to go to a track and ride. Like I wasn't getting paid anything to do it. It was just getting my foot in the door. And then I went to a Yamaha a couple other local intros. I did a flyaway where we went to the Yamaha intro for the 2014. So the first FI reverse cylinder YZ250F went to Monster Mountain, Alabama. And shortly after we came back from that, Bio and the company had parted ways. And I remember texting Guy B something like, so is there a job opening? He's like, yeah, but like Brad McDonald that owns it, which you've worked for Brad as well at one point, who ran Transworld and started Ride BMX Magazine, all this stuff. He's like, yeah, you still have to, send in a resume and stuff. And so I did, and I went down.
Watch my video. There's my resume.
I went down, met with him and Brad, and of course I had no qualifications whatsoever for a quote unquote journalist job and being in media, but I was just like, I remember my pitch to him is
what's funny is you were already like getting into taking pictures. You're starting to do some photography. You're riding all the time. You're starting to build this foundation of like learning suspension inside and out. And then you're on the forums. Like you've got this like foundation of like, oh yeah, I could see you being content director. Being the best kind of journalist guy out there. It's like, oh yeah, you've got this foundation is like, as long as the walls go up, you can put the roof on easy, right?
Yes, I remember going to my pitch at the end was like, hey, if you give me a chance, give me 6 months, because you can teach me to write a better sentence. You can teach me to take some better photos, but you're not going to teach somebody, like you're not going to find somebody whose college or their schooling was living in the industry every day around the track, around all these people, already quite a fan of like how media works and all the forms. I kind of said, I'm like, hey, I know everything what people want to digest. I just don't know exactly how to do it. But you could teach me that more than trying to find somebody that knows how to write stories but doesn't know the industry inside and out the people like I do. I thought it would be easier. So I remember like, oh, we have a lot of people to interview. It'll be a few weeks. I think this was like Monday or Tuesday, and I went home. And actually, my mom was pressuring me really heavy at the time to go to college. And I remember, I think the next day I went to community college to like figure out classes and some different stuff. And then about a day or two later, Guy B called me. He's like, hey, I want to offer you a job. And I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be a couple weeks. And, he had pushed on his end too, like, hey, no, we think you're the right person. Like, your reasons were all right. And he's like, when can you start? And I think this was a Thursday. He's like, when could you start? Could you come in on Monday? I said, well, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. So I went in on a Friday for my first day down to the office. And I remember after 6 months, I did walk in. I had it written down the date. And I walked into Brad's office one day and I was like, so are we good? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's been 6 months. Do I have a job? And he just laughed. He's like, I completely forgot you said that.
That's awesome.
It's like, okay, then we're doing good.
So, you were there for 7 years before you left? So you started in 13, 14, and then was it 18 or 19?
I started at so part-time, like doing the bike test was early 13. Full-time job was the very end of 13. And then I went part-time, I think at the beginning, some point in 19, I got just like, I don't know, I just had a different direction of what I do. So 19, I started slowly dialing back what I was doing with them. And I think I departed towards the end of 19.
And you started like ML testing. Right?
Yeah, and I started doing ML testing. I started playing around with YouTube stuff. And then I got sidetracked trying to help people with racing. And somehow the team thing got born out of that.
Here we come to the team. So you left Vital, you started ML testing. And then you started a race team. Oh my gosh! What I do, and you. So there's a lot of things to this. We can start at where did it start? Right? You started helping like Cody Shocker. Like who were you helping?
Jerry Robin was actually the first person I got connected with, and I can't even remember for the life of me how I met Jerry. I think it was like off the back of like all the media stuff around him from him doing the old two-stroke and seeing how it gone for him, and somebody connected me with him and I wanted to help him, and there was kind of a part of me that was like, it felt like the sky was the limit. I had so many good relationships in the industry, and I
mean, we're talking like it's right at the end, kind of not the end, but like COVID was tailing off, right?
No, this is the bad part about my team. No, I started a team before COVID started, and then right as the team got going, COVID hit, which was a whole nightmare in itself. So we started the end of 19. I wanted to help him, so I can get some bikes together, and then somehow I can't remember how Starling got involved in a couple hours, and then it turned out, we're gonna have a couple guys like we should get a sprinter, or instead of just helping him get bikes, and then somehow it turned out, I know where I can get a semi for a fairly good deal, so I ended up buying a semi, and then we gotta do this. We gotta make an actual sponsorship package and try to.
Hey, Chaparral wants to help me with bikes.
Yeah, Chaparral helped us a lot. Vital and was still helping us stuff, and then I got directly connected with Honda, and huge thank you still today to Brandon Wilson that runs all racing at Honda. Like took a chance on helping me and
well, dude, I remember like you're like, hey, dude, I'm running a race team. I'm like, we're in.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but dude, we're like, so what do you need?
Yeah. So the first year was really, I would call it haphazard, just like anybody, like, okay, we got a team, we got some bikes, we got some riders, we got a rig, some mechanics helping on the weekend. Did it very bare bones.
Did it surprise you? Like, it seemed from my side, excuse me, that people found out you were running a race team and they're like, we're in. We're like, they're like, if you're doing it, well, like it's.
Yeah, the product side was probably way easier than most guys when they started teaming.
Including the motorcycles?
Yeah, including motorcycles and a few things. Although I ran into some of the same struggles any team will run into, you learn as you do, is, hey, most of the cash flow goes out before the season because of bikes and motors and this and that, and you don't really start collecting money till around Jan 1st. Sometimes as the first time you're doing a team and getting help from people, you're not always priority on some of the product allotments because there is more established teams in those environments. So got stuff really late for certain things, had to really monkey around with borrowing some stuff to get by because we didn't have everything at the beginning of the season we were supposed to. And then COVID hit partway into the first year, and then that just made all that 100 times worse of all allotments getting everything. So
because at first everybody's like, nobody's going to be riding motorcycles, tighten up budgets, and then within 2 months, like the stuff was flying off shelves everywhere, out of dealerships. Like it was crazy, right?
The bright side is the first year of the team, we really didn't have a lot of costs, but also the way it was spending, like I wasn't making a dime. I was putting in my life savings at that point and credit cards and different things of that nature. So when racing paused and sponsorship paused, like the couple of paying sponsors we had that were all structured around races, they were like, okay, we're going to take a break for a second, figure out what's going on, just like everybody, wait and see what happens.
I'm running a race team here.
Yeah, so we only had one salary rider even has a couple bills to pay. So I literally was doing I can't remember. I was doing a little bit of Uber Eats, but I was also mostly doing, there's that, the grocery, I'm thinking of the app where you go grocery shopping for people because nobody wanted to leave their house.
Oh, shoot.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I remember you telling me, like, dude, I'm going to deliver groceries. And
I did that for 2 or 3 months to get by. So I was still doing some content I could for bike testing for the YouTube channel that was still existing.
Yeah, that's when, for me, dude, I gained so much respect for you then, because you're just like, I'm running a race team, dude. We have to do this thing and whatever I got to do. And you're out like at nighttime delivering groceries for stuff to
I was doing
pay bills.
2 side jobs just to make sure I can.
Like maybe a lot of people don't know that. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, just like, so many people face that during COVID, just weird times. You got to do what you do to get by. And I don't know, I've always never really been a person with a problem of like, just because if I have free time on my hands, I can't really sit still. I'm like, well, I either going to do something I like or do something to make money or move forward. And I had commitments to try to get done. So whatever it takes, I'll dig a ditch with a shovel. I grew up in a construction family. I'm used to paying for my own racing by.
But I think a lot of people would just go, hey, just folding it up, dude. I can't. If nobody's paying me, we're not doing it.
It wasn't on a crosswalk because I remember a lot of even teams at the scale of like Star and stuff like that. I know mechanics. I'm like, oh man, if they don't go race a couple weeks, we're all going to get laid off. It was, cool part with the sport, of course, is Supercross specifically was one of the first sports to get going during COVID. Mm-hmm. We did the whole staycation up in Utah for like 6 or 7 weeks and
residency.
The residency, and went racing up there and got the season finished. And then after that, sadly, at the end of 20 is also when Geico Honda went away. And I kind of saw like it was I joke in life that I try not to gamble, but I took a complete gamble in 21 because you had Honda who was going to absorb the Lawrences in-house, and they were also very open like, hey, we're going to do the Lawrences for a couple years, and then we we're a factory 450 team at the time. They were saying we don't want to keep the 250 program in-house. Somebody needs to step up. And like you've had the Phoenix Honda guys, who I have a great relationship with, David, that I met through that's been around for a while, that was doing GNCC. I was starting a team. Uriv was starting to do stuff here. And it was kind of like, hey, if somebody in this group can prove themselves, there's an opportunity to get a good 250 program down the road. So I went all in 2021, like hired full-time mechanics. We redid our entire technical package for the entire bike and treated it like a true factory team. And we spent 6x what we did the year before, which is still a minute amount of money compared to what other people did.
Sure.
But then 21 was the all-in, this is either going to work or blow up in my face. It blew up in my face.
Yeah. So one of the questions I have here is, I have a couple of questions that pertain to the race team is, do you think it failed?
Yes. In retrospect, I remember at the time, I always try to say I don't live with regrets.
Because I know you sacrificed a lot.
I did, and I look at my life of where it is right now, just slowly, like I finally paid off the debt from the team just very recently. So yes, in a way, I don't think it failed in the sense of a lot of people I helped like got to keep going. It helps certain guys in different ways. But
isn't that a success?
Today. That's a success for me. What it did to my personal life, yeah, it was somewhat of a failure. It set me back nearly 10 years of life progress at that point. So what it did to me personally, yeah, it was a failure. But you always learn the most from your failures. And I ultimately jumping a little bit ahead, but it was part of when I went back to Vital. I remember having a meeting with Brad when they asked me about coming back, and a lot of the lessons I learned from the team was beyond normal media, just dealing with brands and sponsorships and people and managing people and dealing with travel and just all the little ins and outs of, I feel like a team manager.
You took a lot on, dude.
Yeah, a team manager as a race team is a full-time guy that puts out fires. And I've had this conversation with a couple guys since who have been team managers at different scales in the sport and have since left the job. We all joke about like it's probably every job in moto on the race team side has some level of it's never really over. There's always something to do, but for the guys that run the programs, like it never stops. There's always a problem you're fixing. There's always everybody's 911 fixer for everything going wrong. It never ends. It's tough because if one guy's successful, another guy is. You never really like. The mechanic and the rider of the guy that's doing good get to like ride the high. But if you have a multi-man team, you're riding the lows and the highs with people. It never feels accomplished. It was kind of a tough one. I thinking unless you're like, maybe ask like a Lars Lindstrom this or somebody who's seen really great success the last couple of years with Lawrence's, unless you have like really team-wide success, I think even when you have a little bit here and there, it's hard to ever feel like, unless you're with an absolute dominating rider there, I don't know if anybody ever feels like they've really succeeded because there's just so much ups and downs with it.
Yeah.
And
I think it depends on your end goal too. Because again, that's one of the cool things about you and looking at what you've been through. As you do your job at Vital now, you've done you know what it's like to go into tent. You know what it's like to be a team manager. You know what it's like to deal with mechanics. You know, because you ran this race team for 2 years, right? And before that, way before that, you're learning how to do suspension. Like I just think that life has prepared you for where you are right now.
Yeah.
Perfectly, really. Even though you say maybe the race team wasn't a success, as you look at it big picture, yeah, there was some things that didn't work, but ultimately it led you to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So it was a bridge. Yeah. It didn't burn to get you to the next thing in life, right?
Yeah.
So, so the next question, this is maybe, I might know the answer to this, but would you do it again? Knowing what you know now?
It's always easy. I mean, I give, some people that have tried to start teams since or people that do teams, I still give a chunk of advice to because it's very easy. Again, you learn the most from your failures. There's a lot of things I tell them that are very obvious, but until I feel like you failed at it, it's not as obvious how big of a pitfall you step in sometimes or how big of an issue certain things were or how they affect it. So would I do it again with somebody else's money? Not my own. I ended the team. I never calculated it down to a T because I think it would scare me so badly. But between just pure personal loans and credit card debt and blowing through my savings and all this, the team cost me personally somewhere north of $170,000 out of personal between draining my savings and putting me in debt. And a huge reason I closed the team when I did, like as 21 was coming to a close, we had done so much progress in terms of results and how everybody visually saw the team. Like the visual look was so amazing, how everybody, all the sponsors thought of it, how the riders were doing and progressing, and the people were put in place. Like if we could have kept going, I think it could have grown. The problem was I was balancing between some sponsors.
Well, I think, again, from the outside, it looked like, okay, the second year, he's got momentum. It seems to be jiving. And you're like, it's done. And everybody's like, no, man, well and to keep it going. You're like, no, dude, it's done.
Yeah, and I had multiple people bet, like almost like, and I appreciate this. One of, again, our contacts on is like, what would it take for you to go another year? And I had to throw a number out to fix, because it's multiple problems. I had a semi I sold from the first.
Well, I think just from knowing you, dude, you were stressed out.
Oh yeah,
I mean the toll it took on your health.
I did the last 3 nationals, so I get like some people, I get eczema when I'm stressed, so skin falls off my hands and feet and stuff. Going into the last couple nationals that year, my hair was falling out at an extreme rate. I had eczema so bad on my feet that I was like wearing double socks because my feet were bleeding when I'd walk around all day because all the skin was basically falling off the bottom of my feet. I've never dealt with anxiety in my life. I was waking up sweating with panic attacks. I was just randomly, like I couldn't sleep, so I would randomly just fall asleep against walls during the day because I was not doing good health-wise. I was doing terrible. So
that's when because I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
And when I saw you going, we're done. I'm like, dude, he is physically and emotionally done. He can't do it anymore.
No, it was destroying me. And I felt bad because I had some people even within close team that were, basically accused me of trying to ruin their life. I'm like, you don't understand, like I'm massively in debt. And there was a path. If everything would have went perfect, it would have continued on fine. But if one thing slipped up, which I've already experienced it with team, like I could follow through with everything I said I was going to
up, dude, it happens all the time.
If everything followed through, I said I was going to work on, which is one thing, we could keep going. But I'd already run into problems with sponsors not paying. I had somebody who still is there. I still haven't been fully paid for the first semi I sold. I had all these other problems. Like I was, okay, if this, and this happens, we're good. But if one thing slips up,
the chain's broken.
And it's not a lot of people. It's like, okay, I'm responsible for like 2 mechanics and a crew chief's livelihood. And one of them I knew at the time was having a kid, and the other had kids already, and riders that you were going to be paying salaries to because the team was growing, finances were going to cost more, etc. And I'm like, if everything works out perfect, everybody will get paid.
Which it works out perfect all the time, right?
I'm still not getting paid. I'm just floating and existing. Yeah. But the thing I didn't want to have happen is for it to go south, because we've seen whether it's like the Butler Brothers situation or people, I didn't want to be that guy. Because something I also learned very valuable in my life during the team, and I try to remember this all the time for a saying, is you can do things with the best of intentions and still be in the wrong. And there was a lot of times during the team, I had the best of intentions, and there are things that I did wrong, and there was a lot of things that our people did wrong that caused a landslide. But like I could continue with the best of intentions, but there was still a very good chance that I was going to be in the wrong. Yeah. And I didn't want to be that person because it was already starting to like slide. And I was like, okay, if everything works out, I'm going to look like a hero. If one of these things goes wrong, it's going to be so bad for everybody that I'm going to have to move to Alaska. I couldn't take that risk. And it was also a perfect scenario where each guy who was in the team had something to go do or somewhere to go. Like even at the time, like Cody had his amazing breakout year, and ultimately it didn't work out for him, but like I knew the Phoenix guys really well, and I helped take some of my sponsorship that I did have from the team that was going to continue, give it to them, and they gave him a job, and they gave the guy who was going to be his mechanic that we were going to hire for next year a job, and then Archer, his mechanic, got a gig PC, and we knew that the other mechanic, like Pedro, was going to go to KTM at the time, and we knew riders, like it kind of was like, okay, if I step away now, I'm the only one that's going to be permanently burnt because of the financials, but I'm like, everybody else we'll get to move on and not get damaged during this. And I'm like, but if I continue one more time, and if the gamble doesn't pay off and people screw me and somebody doesn't do what they say they're going to do, everybody's going to get damaged. And I was already so stressed out. I'm like, I can live with destroying myself and my own health and my own life. Like that's my choices. I can live with my own choices of what they do to me. I couldn't stomach what it would do to the other people involved. And yeah, so it wasn't worth it at that point to continue. I couldn't stomach what it was going to do to all those guys. So
then did you call Guyby or did you call Brad? What happened? How did you get back to Vital?
Randomly, one of my coworkers there who was in sales, Michael Morgan, called me midway through the summer and was just randomly like, hey, would you ever consider coming back? And I remember at the time I kind of laughed. I'm like, no, because that time team was stressful, but it hadn't gone, one or two things hadn't gone really south yet. And I was like, no, I love what I'm doing. This is insane, but it's my insanity. I'm pulling the world's biggest gamble here. We're going for it. Like, I'm good. And he's like, okay, but like, would you? And I kind of left the door slightly open at the end of the conversation. Randomly, a month later, again, I get a call like, hey, would you consider it? And I'm like, why are you asking me again? And that's when I got told that Steve Guyberson was going to step away from Vital MX at the time from running it. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I would have a conversation. So I went and had lunch with Brad McDonald that owns Vital Media Network during the summer of the year. And I kind of still had from the first time I was there things that I thought should have been better, or like things I wanted to be done a certain way when I didn't have final say or control, but I had always experienced stuff where I had present things during meeting or argued how we should do things or not, and it would take too long to get to them. So I was like, hey, if I come back, I want fairly full and total control, and here's my reasons, and here's why I would do everything. And I probably spent, like I do here, I talk too much. I probably spent 30 minutes without even letting him talk, just like, here's what I do, here's why, here's what I think's wrong with current media, here's what I think we could do better, da-da-da-da. And at the end, he's like, well, if I gave you the job, would you go try all this? I'm like, yeah, but that was, again, right as the team was going away. So at one point, I was going to almost try to sell the team to a couple of the guys that work on, just like, sort of just like, hey, here's what the rig and a couple things cost me, just get this out from under me if you guys want to keep going. And ultimately they couldn't make that work, so it was just like, okay, I gotta close the team. And that was part of their reason. I guess I missed that when I said, hey, everybody else will step away. I have this job over here. I'm going to be financially burdened, but at least I can step out. Like, everybody can get kind of out of this and move on. So yeah, it was really odd timing. I didn't ask to go back. They asked me to come back, which, you know, I look back at now of just, I'm absolutely so thankful that it came along when it did, because otherwise I don't know what I would be doing. Cause yeah, I was also so, it did hurt me.
Isn't it funny how life works?
Yeah. I was a little bitter the first year after the team because so many people tried to burn me at the stake afterwards for shit I didn't do, or stuff that like people didn't fully understand, which happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of life too.
It's part of life. It's completely part of life.
Not everybody knows the whole situation. You know? And not everybody knows that. Yeah, I'm trying to make this team work, so I'm driving the truck. One of the things I learned, I drive the tractor trailer to these races. Got hurt.
We didn't get paid by a sponsor, so I can't afford this guy right now. So I got to do this myself or that, or just like all the hoops we were jumping through, like, again, people not paying their bills and stuff. So it was just, I'm drowning over here. So it worked out pretty well at the time. But it kind of sucked because the first year I was back in the sport, I really didn't go to the races much because I was pretty bitter, and not bitter at the industry. I was just bitter at life. And I remember going to one of my first bike intros when I came back, and
you're like, I owe all this money to people and this.
I was just quiet. I was just in the back room. Usually I'm the first guy to ask a million questions, and Kiefer comes up to me and like slaps me on the shoulder. He's like, I really like this version of you. I'm like, you mean the version of me that's been kicked and beat down by life and shit on? And he's like, yeah, I like this version of you. You're quieter. I'm like, thanks, Chris. Thanks.
Keeper always bringing it real.
Keeper's always keeps it real, always brings up the best comment. But no, it's, I mean, again, I learned so much from the whole experience. So maybe it was my version of college because it cost me as much of about, I think, an Ivy League school would.
Yeah. So actually, we'll put a cap on that. But like, if you could say what's the biggest thing you learned about running a race team and do that part of your life, if you could put just one thing, I know there was a lot, but what would be the biggest thing?
There's actually, I would say, three standout things. One I already mentioned is the best of intentions.
You're only allowed to pick one.
I think all three are pertinent, though.
Okay.
The best of intentions, but you can still be in the wrong, is a huge personal lesson I learned. The two things with the team, maybe about management, is, and a lot of people experience this, one bad apple, one person even not bad apple, just one person's personality doesn't fit in with the rest, so the group can really, really draw it down. You are only as good as as the people you surround yourself
Like
with.
a chain.
Yeah, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And if you have one, not even bad chain, just piece of chain that doesn't fit in, everything else is a silver chain, and you got one red chain link in there, something.
Yeah.
It really can pull the whole thing apart. And then the other thing is just the other comment I made about I learned how to fix problems that in a prior point of my life I would have thought were like basically life ending. I could figure out on a weekly basis how to fix problems to a huge scale, and I still have taken that. So that's almost one of the ones I took the most in the current job is surround yourself with the right people, and then when anything goes wrong, anybody on the staff, anybody calls me, I'm like, yeah, I can fix this. This is pretty minor compared to the problems I was dealing with before. I can put out a fire on a daily basis and fix a problem and process it really quick and not get spun out by it.
So now you're content director at Vital MX, and it's the premier message board in motocross and supercross. And there's really no other place to go. What's it like? I mean, and again, this thing, I just think about your foundation. It's like you've been on this board, you've been doing it, and now you're the mediator, so to speak, right? And you're kicking people off and you're doing all this stuff. Like what's that like? Just stepping into that pool, that cesspool, I should say, right? The Vitards or whatever the people call them.
It's different. Message board culture to me is so different than it was in the late 90s and through the 2000s, because I was a part of motorcycle message boards, and also I was a big video game nerd as a kid. So
you were on it when that was like Moto Drive, when it was good?
When it was actually, so I didn't I'd viewed it, but I didn't post on Moto Drive till it became Vital's forum. But I had, again, posted on like Moto, I think it was Moto News back in the day was a really big one. Fresh Ride or wherever the other one was, and Pro Ride. But those kind of guys, like, again, going back to like either how it was for gaming culture or moto culture, like, you know, you had this kind of really core group of guys that probably like DM'd or IM'd each other a lot, that all had these goofy screen names or almost personalities. They played on this. Like there was people there for info, and then the regulars were almost like these personalities, and it was like very community based, where the message board now feels more like social media. The kind of people that come on and comment, like there's people just asking questions or just looking for a reaction or a response out of people at times. So that's different. It doesn't feel across the board as much of a community as it used to, where it was just like this really hardcore group of buddies that got on every weekend to talk about a race. There still is quite a bit of those, but the more week to week stuff is just people coming on, like Q&A, asking questions, very Reddit-like, very what social media looks like. People either asking general questions or people that are commenting to get a rise out of people, or commenting to share their opinion. And I think, just like anything with social media, is people have gone really comfortable sharing their opinion, the kind of stuff they wouldn't say in public because they get punched in the face. So so that was one of my questions is like, you know who these people are, right? How many of these people are industry people with insider? Not as much as I used to, because again, when it used to be more of a tight-knit group, I found a lot of mechanics and riders that had secret secondary accounts that would stir stuff and weird stuff like that. I mean, everybody
Did you just clip them?
No, I would usually text one when I'd find out, though. The ones that really frustrated me is I would find people that were like a brand manager behind a brand that would have a fake screen name and be talking crap on a competitor's product. And
No, that doesn't happen.
No, never. So I'd give them straight like, hey, you need to own, if you got something to say, own it under your own voice. I've had tracks that have a really, there was a Bud Feldkamp story from Glen Helen actually relates to something like that. I've had, again, product brands that have done stuff like that. I found riders. The weirdest one is I've seen.
So that was my question. What's you're getting there? So what is the craziest?
There's a factory level rider. I cannot say the name on this one.
Don't.
There's a factory level rider, one of the absolute top guys that had a secret account that was crapping on himself and like would talk positively about his biggest rival to stir people up on social.
And only you knew this.
Like 2 or 3 of us figured it out finally.
Okay.
But yeah, it was somebody who was basically like their main competitor. Their screen name was literally their main competitor's name. Like that person's name's Fan, and they would talk positive about them and like talk bad about themselves and rile people up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was.
What is the point of that?
I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around that one. But now the forums, like I said, it's just different and it's different. If you're an internet culture guy, you probably know what I mean. Like 2000s to into early 2010s to now era, it's just message boards are different. It's not necessarily better or worse, because I feel like the old crowd, like there was a lot of inside jokes, and I mean there was a lot of stuff you could say then you can't say now about people. I mean that's just life in general, political correctness in a way, and there are certain things that are either too touchy or people have just decided, that's kind of just not cool to say in general.
Yeah.
So you used to have more of that was messy, because you'd have people that had vendettas against each other and this. So I used to have to almost manage. I felt like I had to manage it more then, because it's more cut and dry now. If somebody's on there just to be a shit stirrer, and they're just there to cause a reaction, it's easier to kick them. Where before it was guys that had been on there forever and offered a lot of good because of the discussions they create, but there'd be, again, these characters and these guys that know each other forever, and they would just start beefing and creating chaos, and you'd have to go push them in their corners. You do a lot more temporary suspension where like you're locked for 2 weeks and you're locked for 2 weeks because neither of you can get along and you're driving everybody else in the room insane.
You're in vital jail.
You're basically just in temporary jail, where now it's more just like these users are like the kind of people you see commenting on YouTube or social media comments, like they're just there for all the wrong reasons. You just get rid of them and kind of call it a day.
Yeah.
So it's I would actually say do a little bit less moderation. I used to, where it used to be having to, like I said, kind of deal with these guys' little idiosyncrasies, and I still run into it. Like one of the old school guys will come up and make a comment, and just people don't deal with it the same way they used to be. They're like, well, why are you being an idiot? And they'd be like, I've been on this message boards for 25 years. You don't respect me. It's, I don't know. It's internet personality, man. I don't know what you want to respect, but okay.
Do you feel that the media is harder nowadays than it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago?
Yes and no. As with anything, it's harder. Like what we experience at the races now is it's so oversaturated, of course, because of social media. It's harder, I think, to really put effort into. You got to put out content so fast. You got to put out so much of it. It has to be. You need to grab people's attention. So you got a borderline between clickbait and actually something that really means what it says, not just throwing a thumbnail and a title out there to get somebody in there because it's outrageous and they watch and go, well, this is absolutely.
Well, it's like, that's what I was going to ask you, is like, we're living in, it feels like this age of hot take media. Anybody with an iPhone and even AI accounts are just popping stuff off left and right.
That's a whole nother thing. AI accounts problem. So like, I'd say me is trying to balance the times, like, hey, we got to be able to reach people. We can't just go off an old series name. Like, you got to have good quotes. You have to have good thumbnails. You got to have stuff that pulls people in. But to make it where you don't just pop off one time, and we've experienced, you've got to put a really good job into, this is going to be a really quality title, thumbnail, whatever, to get somebody in, but it has to relate to the content. The content has to be really good to get them to come back regularly. Or you can do what some people do, is you just swing for the fences every week and just blast out a ton of content and hope that one sticks, where we try to land in the middle of, hey, we have really good quality stuff, but we try to make it attention grabbing, try to get people to realize that everything we're going to do is quality, so they keep coming back, and then it's all, one other struggle is people are really comfortable with platforms, I feel like, these days. So, and I'm really guilty of it. I don't watch linear television. I have less streaming apps.
I haven't heard that before. Linear television. Is that like just cable?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what the term means. Again, I might be making some of that, but I think linear television was...
It's all streamed now, right?
Yeah, it's all streaming. So I don't have a satellite subscription or a cable box or anything like that. And I haven't watched that style of network television, that kind of stuff, in years. I used to be a heavy streaming guy, but like everybody, okay, streaming has got really expensive, so you thin it down. So I only use a few platforms to watch everything. And personally, I'm a huge YouTube guy, so I look at a lot of how do we produce that, or podcast guy. So you have people that only want to live on that platform, and no matter how good your content is, your thumbnail, it's a lot harder to post. We're used to use all these platforms to funnel people back to the core product of like, you know, hey, just a teaser, here's a clip from this pod or clip from this bike test, or just a photo, and hey, click link in bio, click this. The algorithms of these sites, again, YouTube, Facebook, they don't want you, the user, to leave their platform to go somewhere else. So they'll start throttling back if they realize you're just trying to push people off the platform. So you got to put as much of the content sometimes on the platform and just try to work off that. But you still got to figure out a way how to get them back to the core of what you're doing, whether you're primarily a podcast guy, whether you're primarily a YouTuber, whether you're primarily a written website, like some of the content we have. Yeah, you can get really successful because there is so many people you can reach on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and you can put the content there. But compared to a couple years ago, it's a lot harder to be like us sitting here doing this podcast. Go, oh, we have a great podcast. Let's put some really cool snippets out there, and people are going to click off the platform to the podcast.
And that's funny you say that, because when we started this thing, like that was one of the things, is like that we were like, that like it's me and my buddy Justin here. We would just see stuff. It's like, dude, they're doing that. That's just clickbait, dude, to get you pulled in. And it's like, that's not what we want to do with our podcast. Like when we started doing this thing, is like, what do we hate about these things, right? And that was one of the things that's like, can't we just be genuine? Can't we just like put it out there and go, if you like it, consume it. If you don't, move on, right?
Yeah, and that's how I try, like, when we see negative, like, there's two different types of comments I'll see from people, what I call negative. There's constructive criticism, which is about the way you do it, whether people like to get on me about the way I speak. My favorite one is I cannot say the word debut to save my life. I just say it with a T, and I'm still trying to say debut.
Yeah.
Stuff like that where people criticize how I say something or how I go about an interview or by test. Like, that is, I legitimately...
you know, me and Justin talk about that. Those are the ones that create the comments, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe that might be a flaw of yours, but like that creates comments and people engaging, you know?
Yeah. But I try to take, like, there's constructive criticism that's like some people go, oh, that's negative comment. Yeah, they're constructive. That guy has a legit point about what I'm doing or how we do it, and that could be better. And then there's just people that come in and either just like, I can't stand ML, he's a fat retard, or can you actually say that word? That was a bad one right there.
You did. You said it pretty good.
I did.
Better than debut.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but that's what people call me sometimes, so fair is fair. And then people complain about Lewis and think he's Australian, even though he's British because of his accent. The amount of people that still think he's Australian.
Hey, if they just complain about Lewis because of his accent, that's awesome.
But just dumb stuff like that. Or they'll just say something like, we get a press on like the audio quality. Hey, we're all in a tent. Like, I can't make this perfect stuff, where people just find mindless stuff to comment about. Like, hey man, here's free content. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, okay, that's fine too. There's a lot of other stuff out there, but the stuff where people legitimately, like, you see that they consume your stuff a lot and they're just giving you constructive criticism, like, okay, I'm going to listen to this guy and try to make it better. But there's just, again, some people's comment, you look and you're like, I can never make this person happy. They will never be happy.
You won't ever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Just move on. And that stuff used to bother me more. And after all, you're just like, no, like, I've been doing this for years. The stuff's growing, and that's it's one of the dumbest things to fall back on when somebody's just being unnecessarily negative and they're like, just want to say your stuff's crap. I'm like, okay, if it was crap, it wouldn't grow. Like, we're growing year over year. Our watch hours, our view hours, our retention rate, our subscriber, everything. Like, if it was that bad, we wouldn't be growing.
Right.
That's a very simple. You can't lean back on that all the time, but there's part of it's like, we must be doing some sort of a good job here, because again, some of the numbers I see on our social media platforms, on YouTube, on our podcasts and stuff, I'm like, we are growing like a weed still, which is, I mean,
it just shows you're doing it right.
Well, that's one of the exciting things for me about me. Is it hard right now? Yes, because of, like, as you said, AI is becoming a huge problem with all these fake thumbnail stuff. People just going for the grabbiest things on Facebook that aren't even close to true. More just people can do individual content creation. What I always say is, you don't have to be right. You just have to be first. And we always want to be right. And people want to complain like, oh, media's hiding something because you didn't just throw this out there. I'm like, look, I want to check with like five different people.
It's about being responsible.
Yeah,
like, just gonna start checking your gun everywhere.
I'm going to make sure with like 5 different people I have this right before I'm going to go live with it. And I'm willing to like, yes, I'm hugely on trying to make sure we get it out there as early as possible, but I'm also not going to risk being blatantly wrong.
Yeah.
Blatantly wrong just to get something out a couple hours earlier. So those parts are hard, but then what's more probably easier than ever is, in some ways, the sport, I know we kind of sit here and argue and agree and disagree of if the sport is growing. We talk about a local level, it needs to be better. More people need to be buying bikes. Tracks need to be more accessible, blah, blah, blah. At the top end of the sport, I'm amazed at how big it is from a digital platform standpoint. Mostly what I'm talking about is like social media. So this is a really narrow example to use, but take like NASCAR right now. A lot of big personalities for drivers. We're in an era of heavy social media content. There's enough budget in NASCAR that a lot of these drivers have full-time social media guys, like what we see with Hayden Deegan having a full-time vlogger, basically, and building that. Like guys like Carson Hocevar do a really excellent job at it. You look at all the content Dale Jr. puts out, etc. Go look at their like social media following. So I haven't looked in a couple months at this, but the last time I did, I went and looked, and I think the largest current NASCAR driver I think on IG was Bubba Wallace, and I think he might be in the somewhere around 400 follower range.
That's all?
Yeah, Carson Hocevar is blown up. But I looked at him early in the year before his big win at Talladega, and he did the big like burnout on top of the car. Like I think he was at 120. He might have broke 250 now for followers.
Wow.
But like you have that, but then you go look at Hayden Deegan is 2.1 million. Jet Lawrence is over 1 million. Ken Roczen is 1.7. You know, Eli's this, that. And then I go compare it to other North American motorsports in general. The only athlete or driver or whatever you want to call it in North American motorsports I can see that is bigger than a Supercross, the top Supercross stars, is in IndyCar racing, Mick Schumacher, but he came from F1 because every other the best IndyCar driver, I think Alex Palou is like
that's a really good observation, dude.
So what I'm getting at is it's amazing to me is how big Supercross athletes really are, and I see it with, again, those platforms, how many views we can get on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and like how the riders are being perceived there. And you hear it like MotoGP stars going on podcasts regularly saying how big of a fan they are of Jet Lawrence, of Indian, of...
Well, that's what's really neat about our sport, because if you look like in the 70s or 80s, it was doing this, right? It was on TV, it was doing whatever. Yeah. But now it's like, you know, again, the amount of people doing Supercross, motocross versus the amount of people consuming it and watching it, it's such a big thing now, right? Like you saying, like all these athletes have all this huge following because people like to watch the sport. I like you said, like that. We're in a good spot like that.
I think they respectfully do, because again, you look at, and this is a whole nother argument we can get into of what's going on right now further with media. With there's some upcoming potential changes of like what can and can't be shot at the races, and a lot of it has to do with TV contracts and all kinds of things. But one thing we're riding a hellacious high on right now is, you go to a race, there is not a lot of journalists there to do an interview or cover a story. There's a lot of filmers and digital some are hacks, but a lot of digital creators. And yes, there's some negatives to that, but one thing is the amount of amazing just edits and highlight clips and moments we're able to capture everything. Like go this weekend, we had due to flight issues and other stuff, there wasn't nearly as many guys shooting at the race as there usually is. But like my guy Sean Ogden got, like, we had to provide TV with a bunch of the Jet and the Jet and Hayden spats during practice. That kind of stuff, like millions and millions of views on that stuff, because people are so engaged in what these guys are doing, and the highlights and the clips you see of what a Jet, a Hayden, a Hunter, a Kenny can do on the bike, like all that stuff. I think whether you know moto really well or not, again, guys that come from other sports and motorsports, they respect what these guys do. Again, you look at like Roczen goes to an F1 race or a MotoGP race or Jet, the amount of the drivers, athletes that come up to them that are like, you are a gnarly dude. You're insane. Now, I get their complaints. How do we train?
And they're in racing series too. Yeah. They're gone probably 30 weekends of the year or whatever, and they're doing all that stuff. So they respect what those guys put out, right?
Yeah, we talk about the disappointing part is you look at it as like, okay, there is somewhere along the lines we are missing some sort of translation between, you can talk about, you know, how NASCAR has slipped over the years, but still at some point in time, pre the lawsuit issues NASCAR's had, at some point they've built a platform that brought the ability to market and bring a lot of money in, because you look what the drivers make, the teams make, etc. It's still such a different scale than professional.
I think I really hate when people try to bring other sports into Supercross and motocross. Like, well, NASCAR does it like this, or F1 does it like this. It's like Supercross and motocross is a very unique sport, and it derived from a certain thing, and it needs to stay a certain way. And you can't just go, well, NASCAR does it like this. Well, there's a car going around a track. You can keep a camera on the whole time, and the company's logo is like visible and prominent the whole time. That's not the case with Supercross, or the same thing with F1. You know,
and that's where I say, like, on one hand, I think there's a balance, because I agree, because right now what we're dealing with is I'm hearing a lot of stuff from the top end of the sport where they're like, we're going to do this because this is how it's done in NASCAR. This is how it's done here.
So that's one of the things I talked to Weege off camera about is like, there's some, for those of you guys that don't know, there's some potential media changing coming around that might be coming around to Feld Motorsports and the SMX group. And what I was telling Weege is like, it needs tuning, but it doesn't need a new engine, right? Like it doesn't. You can tweak some stuff and make sure it goes along perfectly, but when you just do a arbitrarily like take everything off the table and start from scratch, man, you got to be careful, because you're gonna that engine might cease.
Well, and that's what I try to explain. Like that subject's come up a little bit, and I've been off of the subject a bit.
Didn't you get kicked out of Salt Lake City?
I almost got kicked out of Salt Lake, I think, at one point for that. It turned into a whole thing with Feld employees and me being apologized to, some other things that
We don't need to get into
I
that.
don't need to get any more trouble than I already did. But we've heard whispers and rumors about what it could be, and I've been trying to repeatedly go to certain people at the top just to have an honest conversation with them about that. Because, like, hey,
are they listening? I heard there's positive things happening.
There's some positive things. I think the biggest thing I hate to say is it took a lot of uproar towards the end of Supercross of everybody, not just media. Because I get at some point they were just thinking, oh, we're
the OEs.
Media is just looking out for themselves, but then OEs got involved and riders got involved, and they'll explain the same thing. Like, hey, we're just trying to find, there needs to be middle ground. I understand that our sport operates differently than anything else, and we need to recognize that. But there's also things where we've gone away with stuff that you can't get away with in any other sport. That with
and
TV
some stuff because of the sport should be gotten away with because of how the sport is.
Yeah.
But if you cut that off, then you're not going to have the Vital MXs of the world going, hey, dude, I just got that shot that TV didn't get that you need.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, even assurance. So I understand some of, like, you look at other motorsports. How many of them can you have a bunch of photographers and videographers 5 feet from the track without helmets, without chain link fence? There's a lot of things we're pretty spoiled about. Yeah. All of us running around for Supercross, jumping over. Go back to one of the highlights this reel of earlier this year. My guy Sean jumping a bike sliding across a floor at him. Like, that doesn't happen in our sport. So I get that we are on the teetering edge of, we have one of the gnarliest sports in terms of what can and can't happen on the track. And we're all just standing around like, hey, I'm here with my camera. Let's see what happens. The other end is, TV. We're allowed to shoot and film and do so much more than any other sport is allowed to with digital rights.
But then on the other side of that, it's to the argument, what you said before we started this, is that I think look at the growth the sport's having. I think because there's so many eyes on it.
Yes, and that's what I argue is we got to find a balancing point, because that's part of why the athletes and the sport has such big social numbers and different platform numbers, is because there is so much unique content and angles and all this cool stuff coming out of it that you normally don't get in our sport, because there's just not that many people allowed to be there. So we got to find a fine balance, and that was the thing. At one point, I think from the highest end of the sport, they were looking out other sports and they were, like you said, almost new engine. Like, I felt like they were going to jump the gun and go way too far. And I went from trying to get a seat at the table just to explain to people, hey, here's how we operate. Here's how we right now operate because of what you allow us to do. And if you go this far, this is how much it's going to cut off and how it's going to change. Like, can we have a middle ground? And I eventually had to make it too big of an issue with certain people, which caused some problems. I didn't.
There you go, Michael Lindsay again, causing trouble.
Well, we had a conversation at the photo, and so there was a lot of the guys I work with that came up to me that were just like, "Hey, man, you went through a bunch of crap. You didn't need to go through, number one, but number two, they're like, I wish I could have said what you did, but I'm in danger of, if it goes bad." Like, even if what they said helped, but they could get pushed out, where I kind of joke, but like, at the end of the day, if I get told I can't go to the races, I don't mean this in a bad way. I can go, I have enough staff, they can go do it. I can go test bikes. I can go to World Supercross.
I'll find a way.
I'll just find a way to make it work. I don't mind that much, because I'm genuinely concerned, because again, I see.
Because you love the sport.
I see how amazing this stuff is coming out now. The next thing is, I think we need to keep riding the wave. I know we need to meet in the middle of how it looks, but then the next part is we always talk about, and I get it. Nobody wants to see the sport become like NASCAR, where there's just viewers. I think Moto is lucky, and an interesting little sidestep on this. I know a lot of people talk about the whole production versus works bike thing, and having a production motorcycle in the sport is interesting, because it makes it really tough for riders sometimes to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Have feedback or negative feedback or constructive criticism, because it's a product you can go buy, and that's very different than F1 or NASCAR when they talk about having a bad day with setup or this or that. Because you don't go buy that product, and that's always been the touchiest thing with Moto. When I ask teams like, "Hey, why can't a rider talk about this or that?" and they're like, "Well, we sell that. And that's really difficult.
But that's cool.
But what I was going to say is cool is, no matter, I think there's a balance where the sport can get bigger on the racing side. The guys can get paid more brands, more, when I say brands, not brands of bikes, but like brands come and sponsor. I think the sport can continue to grow, but if we can keep a couple certain things like that in place, like, you're still going to go ride your bike. Where again, NASCAR is the point. Nobody.
Who's driving a NASCAR?
Yeah, who's driving a stock car? Where again, anybody can go to a Supercross, sit down and watch.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. The beauty of our sport is that people can just go out and do it, buy a dirt bike and go out riding dirt bikes, right?
So one other sidestep on that I find so interesting, and part of this growth, I've seen this more and more. So great example, a piece that I think some people want to debate right now in a way as, the effect that Hayden Deegan has had on the sport. And what I mean by that is his audience. And I've heard Brian say this and Hayden, like, we bring in people to the sport that haven't been here. And I know some people that whether they don't like.
How can you deny that?
And,
like, I'm not a personal
yeah.
fan of Hayden, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think they're bringing something.
They are. And that's what I was saying, because I've run into people, like, I know this was kind of a joke his first year or two pro. You would go the big line from the start truck, and there'd be fans who would walk up to, like, a Levi Kitchen or Jordan Smith around the team, and like, do you want to first start racing? When's Hayden Deegan starting? Because they don't know anything other than that kid. And I've seen that with a lot of around that age demographic. Okay, these are the kids that are on Surons and aren't motocross kids, but have seen him on YouTube and they think it's cool, and they've convinced their parents to bring him to a supercross. So now they're digesting the sport. Maybe they get a normal dirt bike. I don't know, but that's cool. That's good. That's a good thing. But then I've seen it even on another scale. This story comes from Lewis. So Lewis calls me the other day after he gets off a plane. He's like, I just sat next to 2 fans on a plane that are Deegan fans. And he goes, I finally experienced the scale of it. And he goes, what he meant was, these were not kids. This was like a 59-year-old man and another dude like in his mid-50s. They had been basically riding dirt bikes most of their life, but did not follow sport. He found Hayden on YouTube like 2-3 years ago, became a fan, and started going to nationals and supercross. And he came to the whatever national that was like a round or two ago. And the only reason he was there was because of Hayden. So they're talking on the plane, and like, the guy had a pretty unique take us for the one that I thought that was so funny. We use as a joke now is he kept saying, yeah, you can just tell Hayden has freestyle lines. That's why he's so fast. He's got freestyle lines. So there's a couple funny things that came from it. But the genuine part is, here's a dude that's not the 16-year-old kid on YouTube that found him that's coming to races. Here's a dude in his late 50s that probably has a family, has some buddies he can also get to come to races, that is solely there because of him. Yep. And that's, to me,
and you can like that or not like it. It's fine. They're still coming. Mm-hmm. They're still spending money for a ticket. They're spending money to park their car. Mm-hmm. They're probably buying a T-shirt.
Fix your mic.
Sorry, we are experiencing technical difficulties.
Cool, yeah, thanks, man.
Checky 2, 1 2.
Check. Cool.
All right, so those people are spending money in the sport. They're buying T-shirts. They're buying an airplane ticket to go to this racetrack. They're going to buy a ticket. They're going to buy a T-shirt. They're spending money to park. They're buying hot dogs, whatever. And they're probably buying Hayden Deegan merchandise, right?
And there's a thin chance, let's say 1 out of 100 actually go get a bike and experience it. That's still better than...
It's still, those people are going to work the next day probably and telling us, I went to a motocross race or a supercross race, and it's like, you did what? What is that? And then
same thing. He shows them some clips. Hey, he just pulls up IG. He sees a clip that we shot the race, or the series has, or Hayden has his own social, and you see how gnarly the guys are, and people start going, holy crap, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I want to go watch that. I want to go see that. Hey, go check out these guys on YouTube. Go watch a race on Peacock. Hey, I'm going to go to a race later this year. If after a couple months of them talking about work, like, we need that kind of stuff. We need to reach like the sport. And this comes down to how teams operate and everything. Like, the sport lives off itself, whether it's companies like Yoshimura and Fox Racing and Moto, whoever you want to talk about, that dump money back into the sport so heavily at such a rate to help grassroots, to help the factory teams, to help racing. The OEMs, as much as everybody wants to complain about like a Honda, like quit doing two-strokes, this or that, I think people would be shocked at the amount of money the OEMs spend on racing, to the point I have to argue at some point that probably every line of motocross models for a brand is almost a lost leader. Like, they spend so much money on racing and give back so much. We can't just continue to feed off ourselves like the Ouroboros thing where like the animal just eats its own tail thing. Yeah. Like, we can't continue to survive like that. We will continue to shrink.
That's why I really appreciate it, like, because we're so connected at the hip with a company like Honda, that their core essential values, they could do a lot of other things with their money. They're investing in a lot of different future stuff, but they spend a lot of money in motocross and supercross racing, MotoGP, stuff that I think sells generators and sells lawnmowers or whatever else they're doing, or cars. You can argue that there's a higher profile thing for motorcycles. And actually, if you look at the Honda financials, there's a lot of people are like, dude, this is a motorcycle company selling cars, not a car company selling motorcycles, right? Yeah. So it's so cool to have a company like that could cut tail and go, you know what, we're wasting a lot of money doing this, but to their, again, that's a gigantic corporation now, right? Mm-hmm. But they're spending money because they feel like this is where Honda this is where our roots started and this is where we belong, you know? So anyway, getting back to people not liking you. You've been kicked out of a lot of pit areas in the day.
Favorite thing about my job.
Yeah. It's one of the things I talked to Ross about is that he's like, dude, ML sees everything, dude. He'll spot a different throttle body from 100 yards away.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, again, going back to your technical prowess, like it's incredible the stuff you see. Like he was telling me stuff yesterday, like he was talking to a race team and like, yeah, you can't do this. Somebody's going to see it. Nobody's going to see it. And here you are. First thing is like, yeah, that's not that product, right?
Yeah.
And so you're getting kicked out of pit areas. Are you comfortable with that? Or are you like, hey man, I gotta, this is news. I got to tell the average viewer or somebody that's watching the pit bits or whatever, like, they're doing something different over there.
It definitely, it's a weird balance with all teams because one thing I will say from my earlier days to now, I kind of have a middle ground. I've met with most of the teams.
Are you allowed in the star pits anymore?
Yes, but usually the cameras need to be sat on yes, they're actually, no,
There's rules.
They're pretty cool about now.
Journalists, you can come in, but don't look at anything.
Every year I get kicked out of somebody's pits. I think I'm only out of one right now. I think it's Hep. Hep's the only one I think I'm on this as of this calendar year is my out team. It rotates every year. I used to earlier on, I was young, I was aggressive, like if a bike, I mean, my thought was always, if I'm where a fan is, you really can't say anything because any fan, but I used to.
Behind the barrier.
When they would pull tanks, when they would look for stuff, I'd really hunt. Some of that stuff now I'll talk about, but I try not to like directly hose the teams in a way I never meant to, but like over certain things like that. I have a ground rule with most of them, like, hey, I will shoot your bike when it's together. If I can find something when it's fully assembled, that is very fair game. Like,
and they cool with that?
That's most of them pretty much react to that. Like, yeah, the bike's part. And I have jokes with them. Like and because of that, teams are typically a bit more comfortable with me being around when something's apart because I know I won't shoot it. Every once in a while, one will still make a joke as I pass through a team pit when something's off. They're like, hey, and I'm like, when was the last time I took a picture of a bike in pieces? And they're like, okay, true. Or I'll be by teams where they have some apart and they're comfortable enough to go, yeah, this is what we were working on because they know I'm not like, I might talk about it or something, but I'm not going to shoot the airbox wide open because the teams do. That's where you'll get thrown a pit. And I know I see these comments all the time on social media. They're like, you're not a real journalist because you're not willing to push it. Well, I don't care what sport you're talking about. If you blatantly just try your best to piss people off, then yeah, you're not going to have a job anymore because you're going to have no contacts, no connections. You're never going to be able to learn anything. Then what are you? You're just sitting at home with a microphone watching the race on TV trying to point stuff out. Like you have to at some point have some shit come and go or some give and take because that's also how I learn stuff because I'm open enough to have a conversation with a team about something I find interesting about them and really talk to them about why they did something or not or learn something or talk to them about something else I've observed with another team or things of that nature. I'm totally fine if I'm doing my job and I feel like I've done it on fair ground rules. If I get kicked out of a team pit or they tell me I'm not welcome,
I'll see you next year.
It's fine. It's like
let me
cool.
in next year.
Well, what I tell most of them are like, hey, you're not allowed to come under the awning and shoot our bike right now, even if it's not like, hey, the bike was fully together and I asked the mechanic if I could shoot it, and they're like, yeah, but we don't like that you pointed out this. I'm like, okay. I was telling them like, I'm not here to pick on you, but I mean, your bike's going to be in staging at the line. I can see it there, which I've done a few times with a team because I have a few times had a team come up to me and go, hey, we have something very sensitive on the bike this weekend. We know you're probably going to figure it out. Please just don't come under the...
That's the biggest compliment. We know you're probably going to figure it out.
So please don't come under the tent, but if you figure it out some other way. So then I just wait till the bike goes to staging and I try to figure it out. My other favorite is how many times I've walked up to a team right after they pulled a bike out on Friday and I'll walk them and go, hey, why is that different? And they're just like, it's been on... They're just like, oh, wow. But it's been on the bike for 5 minutes. We thought it would take most of the weekend. Or... The other favorite that's the opposite for me is because sometimes I do get really busy running around the pits and I won't check a team out one weekend. And then the next weekend I go by and the mechanics are almost hazing me like, bro, pit pits, we changed something last week and you didn't find it. And I'm like, then it's almost like a disgrace to me. I'm over there like, okay, I can't leave.
ML's getting
I can't
stopped.
leave right now until I figure out what the heck they're talking about, because they're torturing me right now. Because some of them have fun with it, especially when it's a team that's changing a lot week after week. Like take Cowie this year, one or two of their staff members like to tease me about Chase, but like, oh, what did we change this week?
You're like, it's too much. I can't find it. It's
everything.
everything.
That's like, Joe, I'm like, what are we not talking about? I'm like, this happened last week. This happened the week before. I'm like, I'm losing track, man. I can't remember which part you've already tried. Or I'm like, do you mean the part you went back to from 3 weeks ago? Is that what we're talking about this week? Like, I can't keep track of this anymore. Not picking on the code, but that does happen in certain seasons with certain teams. I've seen where they're some of the guys are fun about it. They like to tease, because I always joke, everybody loves pit bits, except for when it's your bike under, like, because other teams love it when they see, like, oh, I can't believe you got that. Like, we didn't even know they were going to try something like that. That's so cool. But then if it's their bike under the radar or under the microscope, they're a little like,
yeah. So you're learning to walk the line a little bit.
I had one I got a little too comfortable the other day. It was actually like 2 weekends ago. I was under the HRC rig joking with Hutch and Shane for a while. And I mean, they had a 250 heavily gutted. And I was like talking to Drew about the routing of something. I won't say, but I was like, oh, that's so cool. You guys do this. I guess you do this because of this. And they're like talking. And finally Shane looks at me and goes, you know what? I think it's time for you to leave today. And I laughed. And he's like, no, I'm actually serious. He goes, this is probably a little too much. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And just.
You're figuring it out.
No problem. Because it was getting down to a level of, they were like, okay, this is a little on the much side. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll see you guys next weekend, and just go off about my day. But yeah, I've learned to balance with most of them. We are operated off a little bit of a set of ground rules, but still, even if you do it that carefully, like, yeah, teams get upset, and I get it. Like, I had a team literally call me this weekend about something they heard we said, and they were like very sensitive of, how did you find out this? Did one of our riders
That's my point, dude, is like, what other media places is getting that call? No, like, it's just you. You're the one that's breaking ice for everybody.
Well, one of my counters, though, with teams all the time is, like, some of them just want to know because they want to know if something got shared or if we just observed it. They want to make sure that their staff hasn't, like, leaked it. The other thing, though, that'll happen is a team will get really sensitive about a certain part, and I'll kind of, like, I hate to be so blunt, but I'll tell them, like, doesn't matter, though. Like, you're worried about this linkage. Unless another team knows what shock length you're running, how long your swing arm is, how long this is, what you're running this is, that part is irrelevant. Because it doesn't share. We're like, okay, take F1's really sensitive from the tech side of like how a side pods curve this up, because any team can go copy that and make it work fairly identical.
Next week they're coming back with the part.
Because we are on a production bike, there's so many other things about the bike that limit how that part's going to interact on their motorcycle, that a lot of things that we find,
there's your brain working
cool
again.
To the viewer. They're really cool to the viewer, and I love it. It's like, this is so cool to learn why they're doing this or see why a rider did this, but it doesn't. Another team could find out about it, but it's not really going to help them unless they know. As I always say, Kibbe, that used to be at Geico, used to say that some of the best. He used to be one of my absolutely favorite people to chat with at the races, because same thing, I go up, oh, you're doing this. Do you do this because of this, this, and this? And he'd be like, oh, no, because of...
He would explain it to you.
Explain it. And I know every once in a while somebody would say something, why are you explaining? He's like, he could literally say all this about X, Y, Z. He goes, if he knows everything about YZ, it still means nothing if he doesn't know about X. And for all the other teams out there, it still doesn't mean anything if they don't know about X. And then we would joke about with the Honda, he's like, we're the only person racing a Unicam 250. So like, especially in terms of like, this doesn't do anything for anyone else. Right. Like certain little things like that where it doesn't relate enough to anyone else that it'd be really fun to chat about.
Yeah.
You need to have him on here.
Kibbe?
Yeah.
I know. I'd be good to get him. He went through a lot at Geico Honda.
I mean, just his whole entire, his entire road to get there, and during the heyday of that team coming up and their technical part, he's such a fun dude to chat with.
Yeah, that's a good call. You become a really great photographer over the years. Do you like?
I'd say I'm an acceptable photographer.
Okay, well, maybe it's just you're in the right place at the right time or something. But you get some really awesome photos, dude. Is that something you like to do? Do you like taking photos, or you're just like, I have to do this?
It started as I have to, but I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I will say, maybe I'm touting the guys in moto. I think guys like Mike Emery and Garth Milan and Adam Moreau and Ryan Swanberg and Trevor Nelson and those guys, like Simon, of course, on the prior side. Some of the guys in moto are some of the most insane guys I've seen for what they can capture, and knowing what moto is like. the conditions, us running around, it's not like being at an F1 track or an NASCAR or other motorsports.
And all this controlled atmosphere.
Controlled atmosphere. Knowing what these guys are able to capture and show the viewer, the user, the content consumer of the weekend, how much they shoot, the rates at what they shoot are mental compared to most other sports, how quickly they can get it out, folder it, while working in terrible conditions, equipment getting destroyed, dodging bikes, everything else. I think there's some of the absolute... Like, that's why I say acceptable. I'm a pretty self-deprecating person. There's part of me, I think I'm a decent photographer now, but like, I'm up against some of the absolute best dudes I think they've ever carried a camera.
Yeah.
Ever carried a camera. They're not like, don't get me wrong, guys like Mike and Simon, like, and I've seen Trevor do really good stuff. They're good studio photographers. Well, Garth's a great studio photographer as well. But like out in the moment, making it happen,
totally different.
I would put them up against the best from anywhere else, and I think they could crush them.
Yeah,
like, those guys are
so agree.
amazing what they do. So I learn a lot from them. Number one, I learn a lot of the way they do things, and that's why I say acceptable. Like, I feel like I've gone pretty good, and we get some really good stuff, and I see it with our social comments. Like, we have, because I go to every race to share on stuff, Vital's photography looks completely unique because it's out of my lens.
Well, that's something that you're conscious of, and you wanted to make happen this year, especially.
Yeah, because other people will use one of the providers we're talking about, and they're sharing with multimedia outlets. I love the fact that we have... I know what the storyline is we want to talk about that weekend, so I know what I can chase to make that look cool. And because of that, we get a great response on social. It helps with all of our thumbnails, everything, because we have fully unique creative control there. The downside is where you have somebody maybe...
The downside is your airline miles are going up.
And I'm just like, I'm trying to do my job, plus sort tens of thousands of photos a weekend and correct and metadate them so we can look at them later and find them in a Dropbox system I have to build and all that stuff. So it added a lot of work, but it's so unique for us, and I truly enjoy it. I do absolutely loved it. Like this year,
do you think the owner of Vital
stuff is insane?
Do you think the owner of Vital, Brad McDonald, appreciates what you like?
Yes, Brad does.
Okay, because I know he's a photographer as well.
So every once in a while he'll bring up. We don't do as much like big group meetings as we used to, but when we do, and it's one of the photos gets brought up, I do like every once in a while when I get something really unique, I send it to a group chat we have, and they're just like, "Dang, like how did you get this?"
Do you aspire to be a better photographer? Or you're like, hey, this is good enough.
No, I aspire to be better. It drives me nuts. I'm very self-deprecating. I go through my stuff every weekend, and I'm pretty meh about myself. Like, I look at that stuff every week, and I want it to be so much better. Because again, I look at how good those guys are, and I'm also very grateful that, like, again, the guys I'm named off, Garth, Swanee, Mike, Adam, all those guys. Like, we all stay in the same corners. We BS about the same stuff. I'll show them something cool. They'll show me like what they're working on, and like they're really good for advice. So it also helps me be better a lot quicker because they're not a very shut out group. Like they know they're good, but I feel like none of those guys have an ego where they're like, I'm not going to tell you anything.
Yeah. And that makes your job easier.
So I do aspire to, especially because that comes back to some of the Feld stuff this year. That group of people I've worked with in that down there is like what we call like the media dinner in the media tent. Like I know how hard their job is, and I really huge respect for all of them, and they make some cool stuff.
Yeah. So shifting gears, you're getting married to Tegan the end of this year.
He's getting brought up on podcast. Yes, I am.
Why not? Hey,
I don't know. I'm always weird about personal.
I told you this podcast is about you. So
you notice I keep trying to make it about other people.
Yeah. Self-deprecating.
No respect for myself.
So congratulations, I guess, right? The end of the year you're doing it?
Yeah.
And I love that you were telling me like, oh yeah, we had to pick between these races, and like
well, we wanted to make it like it's a joke, is like everybody gets I think married in like October or November, because you don't want to be the holidays. You don't want it to be the holidays. You don't want it to be on a rate like anywhere where races are going to mess up, because this is going to be my life for a pretty long portion of my life. So I also...
You'll always remember your anniversary.
Everybody always, I know this is, of course, a huge struggle in the sport, but it's like, hey, I need to have a life outside what we do, so I need to find the right separation where I'm not blowing that off every year saying, oh, don't worry, next year we'll do something. Next year, like it needs to be at a time of year, so you always have to work on that. Plus, it's also hard for the holiday. So July, we always have that break in the end of July and early August that kind of works for most people, like that 2-week break for Loretta's. That's my birthday. Her birthday's right about Christmas, so December, so it's very thin window that you can make it into something where you can actually celebrate properly every year.
You excited about switching gears like that? That's a big commitment. Like You thought running a race team was gnarly. Now you're going to be really responsible for somebody else.
No, the bright side is like she's so into riding herself, and she's doing some PR for her team now, so she travels with me all the time and stuff. So we joke about me and even our day in life. We pretty much from the moment we started dating, we started living together. So we joke that it doesn't feel like I feel like we're married anyways.
All right. I know you don't like talking about yourself here. I'm going to get your thoughts on a couple of things. So I know you like to talk a lot because your name is Talking Boy. Yeah. But we want to get to lunch, so just give me some of your thoughts on electric motorcycles.
Definitely a fan. The one thing, I mean, especially being in SoCal, and I know you see it in certain other places, like take like the Sur-On craze. I think it's nuts what it's done. You go into like Irvine and Orange County, and like 50 kids riding through an intersection, just being absolute idiots. That part's not good. I do see it like okay.
Do you look at a Sur-On like a Varg?
No, I look at them differently, but I still look at it as an entry point.
It's an electric motorcycle. Yeah.
I still look at it as an entry point because the kids that do that, again, they're watching, a lot of them are probably watching like Hayden or Lawrence's vlogs, and they probably, like some of them maybe don't really watch Moto, but some of them do, and they watch an Aspire, and they still buy Fox stuff, and they think the brands are cool.
Dude, it's funny you say that because I was watching this kid on Instagram just yesterday. He's on a BMX track on a Sur-On, Fox Moto boots, full-on helmet, jumping all the jumps, like with so much, like you can tell he watches Supercross because of how it's done. And I'm not we can talk for 4 hours about Sur-Ons and where they should ride and all that stuff. But you could tell that this kid, like if you put him on a dirt bike, he'd be, okay, I got it. Like there's a swagger he had. I was just like, dude, you're on a BMX track and I hate that because you're tearing the track up.
Yeah.
But dude, this kid looks so at one with the machine, right? So it's
like I know people that have a great example. I think this comes up with Kit. Like this is huge at a young age, especially. I grew up in a neighborhood where I had a dirt lot at the end, and I could just go ride my bike out there and screw around. I know that gets harder and harder all the time, but how many people that parents are busy with work and working overtime, everything's tougher in life, come home, do they have time to take little Timmy or whoever to a local track once or twice a week? Probably not. Do they have just enough room in their backyard that they could ride an electric 50 around and like ride and not want to play video games all the time, wants to ride every afternoon? Yes. So I absolutely love electric bikes, especially through a youth stage, because it opens a door that, otherwise, I mean, what's the option? Some of them might never get the opportunity. Yep. And again, I think more than anything, the other conversations we've had here is I love dirt bikes, and I love seeing people have a great time on dirt bike. I actually haven't said this before. I didn't mention this earlier, but when we come to bike testing, something that really motivates me with bike testing, with shootouts and detailing it so much, is every bike's pretty good. But I also know that everybody has something unique they look for in a bike. And I know when you have a bike you really love, how much more fun riding is and how much more enjoyable the experience is. And I say this at the beginning of end of pretty much every shootout video, and it's not lip service. I really want a user to go listen to all my stuff, to all Kiefer stuff, to all of Transworld's or Swap stuff, to all of MXA, whatever, because I want them to get the bike they want the most, because I want them to have the best time riding.
Right.
And that comes down to all these bikes. Like, if it allows you to go ride and have a great time, I don't care what you're on. Like, go have a good time riding a motorcycle, because, I go back to my entire childhood, again, not doing our sports, not having our friend and everything. Like, dirt bikes is what made me happy. So, I want that for somebody else. It seems such like a cliche thing to say, but it's what motivates me with a lot of the work we see. Like, we produce great content for the races because I want people to enjoy it. I'm always self-deprecating again about my work, but I know people are enjoying it, and that's what motivates me to make more of it. Makes people more motivated to go out and get the bike they want, to have a good time on track. Because I go to the track with my friends, and I have a great time with my friends at the track when we're on bikes that we like, and we're all riding our best and having fun. And just, I almost died 2 days ago at the track in front of a buddy, literally endoed my brains out and somehow saved it. And that's what we spent the next 20 minutes laughing about and having a great time. So,
Next question, California-based teams, can it still work?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I think it's, for a lot of teams, it's almost a good entry level, because take West Coast 250 Supercross, everybody can complain about engine costs. You can make, actually, the current 250s are so good, you don't have to do that much to them to be decently competitive in Supercross. And because of travel reasons, like being West Coast based makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams when starting out, or teams are doing SX only or something of that nature. So that's a huge thing. I think West Coast teams, We've seen a couple like Mumford's performing really well in AEO this year, and they're a West Coast based team. PC guys are doing pretty good, and some of them based out here. Marchbanks is doing really well, and he's based out here. I get the reasons, like, yeah, there are huge advantages to East Coast thing. I think the two that stand out the most easily is the facility of being able to control your environment, and then, as I experience all the time coming from California, is travel. Travel is so gnarly week in and week out, when the difference of, hey, I can take a 3-hour flight back from High Point or 2-hour flight back to Florida versus traveling 8 hours to get back to California with a layover that day.
And then it's not just the travel. I always talk about this all the time. It's just not getting on the airplane. It's waiting the security line. It's turning the rent-a-car in. It's getting the hotel. The travel is so much work in itself, right? Yeah. Next question, where do you think suspension is heading in 5 or 10 years? Do you think there's going to be a big shift in it, or do you think it'll be mostly the same?
I think mostly the same, because I think suspension currently, motocross suspension is pretty high tech compared to what's on road race bikes, for example, because it needs to be so speed sensitive. I know we played with air. We kind of went back outside of eventually electronics coming in, but I have my reasons why I don't think that's a fantastic idea in motocross, because we rely on the bike to do the same thing every time. You don't want the bike to constantly change what it's doing, because that messes with you. I don't see anything, personally, I don't think anything massive happens in the next 5 to 7 years. I think the systems get slightly just better as they are, but I don't think there's going to be some huge overhaul. I know at a factory level, like a lot of those have played with like bigger shocks that have like 20 mil shafts and 55 mil bodies. They've tried upping the sizes, but it has problems. And like I said, I know everybody wants to go all electric, and it comes down to even track control. I don't think we all realize how much, because the terrain is so varying, we need the bike to react very similar to everything we do. As soon as the bike starts deciding what it's going to do,
yeah. See, that's one of the things I love about our sport is like, it's not road racing, you know, because when you look at road racing nowadays, there's so much electronics. There's just like, hey, the rider's just a part of that electronics almost. Where in motocross and supercross, the track's changing every lap. They have to adapt, and there could be weather involved. There's so many things. It's like, and I think like you touched on it before. It's like, that's why those guys that are doing those sports look at the supercross and motocross guys. They're just like, dude, you guys are insane.
Well, as we see with motocross, it's very tough for a 7 out of 10 rider to win on a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 bike, but it's hugely possible for a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 rider to win on a 7 out of 10 bike. The rider still has so much more. The bike has to be good to a certain point. I mean, great examples.
Look at Roxon. Look what he did this year, right?
Well, I was going to say
dude, and that's what's so good about our sport is like, this guy can win on an 11-year-old motorcycle that, okay, it's been tuned, it's been tweaked, it's good, but it's the rider. He did it, you know? When he shouldn't have. Like all that, you know, I always think about like, and nothing against our Honda boys there, but maybe look at these other factories like, do we need to spend all this money in R&D?
Yeah.
Or just do we need to put it in other areas?
My favorite
right?
example for Kenny is go back 2 years ago when he jumped into the 250 class for the one round on a borrowed Bar X 250. Like, you can talk about the Suzuki 450, talk about the Suzuki 250 even more. Him jumping down to that class and barely races outdoors anymore, comes out and runs top 3 on that thing. You're like, yep, this is still back to my point. Kenny is a 10 out of 10 rider, one of the absolute best to ever do it. And I'm not saying that bike wasn't good, but let's call it, maybe it was a 7 out of 10 bike. Like, look what he was able to do. Like, that's still the fun part about the sport is the rider can outperform the equipment. And
is there another motorsport when it's about the athlete and not the vehicle or the car or the, right?
Yeah. It's hard because I said you reverse the number. I said there's a lot of motorsports where you can have a 7 out of 10 driver and a 10 out of 10 car, and they will beat a 10 out of 10 driver and a 7 out of 10 car. Now, the driver can make up a portion of it, but not as much in moto. Right. Not as much as you can in moto. Probably the next closest thing is, and it's still limited by the equipment, like, you know, I think like car auto racing is very... That variance is really small. You get into 2-wheel because you have so much body input. Like, okay, a MotoGP rider, like you said, super, like they can cross a little more, but still you see guys that are near generational talents on a mid-pack bike, and they can get it to the front somewhat, but they can't do it all the time.
We talked about it earlier, but the sport seems to be growing like crazy, right? Like what's one thing you maybe think that could really help the sport? Like, okay, we just switched gears. It just took another grab to gear. Is there something in the back of your brain as you're flying across the country? Like, man, if we just did this.
I don't know what exactly it looks like, but again, with the reach the riders have, I think there's got to be something more we can do to relating to what you see on the weekends to getting people actively to go do it, because we are reaching so many eyeballs. We're always talking about how gnarly these guys train and the huge risk they take in this and this and this, but with the power of this, not the stage, I guess you call it, the power of the stage, the platform they have right now, is there some way we can drive that still home more to getting people to go do it? Because that would be a huge growth if you're talking to any sponsor, aiming to be like, hey, here's the sport that digitally is growing like weeds, that is reaching all these people, but also here's the number of how many more of these people are getting active in our sport.
Yeah.
Isn't just, hey, the top end is getting bigger. I go back to what we talked about at the beginning about the local tracks and the local people and this and that. Like, how do we relate that more together? Like, I think it's been so cool how, like, the Lawrences, I had a conversation with a friend the other night about something like this. Like, is there something where some of the top sports athletes get involved a little more in like some sort of training camps, and you have guys that see them on TV that want to come learn from them, and like maybe they drag a buddy along? I don't know. There, you could again shake this so many different ways, but there's got to be something while it's growing like this and we have this platform. How do we just get more money involved? Like, how do we get brands to see the ROI in what we're doing? And then the other ROI is, how do we get more people on dirt bikes? And I think that one would be more effective than, again, where the sport pours so much money into itself, whether it's you guys, whether it's Fox, whether it's Honda, etc. Like,
when you look at inside the sport, the endemic, it's like this. We can only do so much. You know, like Yoshimura can only do so much. FMF can only do so much. Honda can only do so much. But that was my next question: is like, what about non-endemic like sponsors? Do you think, how can we get people that are outside of this sport more involved? Like, I don't know, the Tides of the world, or the bigger manufacturers of the world, or a Mitsubishi, or some like these big corporations that are like, hey, I like what's happening here. I want my logo associated with this sport. What do you think?
Well, part of what I just said, I think right now we can show that the sport is growing so much from a viewership standpoint. What these people are reaching, that's huge. I think continuing to figure out some of the product integration maybe for some of those brands. How do we, all this digital content that's coming out, how can they be better associated in it, other than just like, you know, I know up to this point a lot of teams lean on the activation at the races and the pits, but they're reaching so many more people that aren't at the races. They're watching it. How do you better integrate that? I think the classic when you see in other motorsports is there's B2B, which I think this sport can always still be better at, is, hey, some businesses get involved because they like moto, but then other people get involved because that guy's able to do something for them. That's huge. And then the last one was kind of what we were already touching on was, if you can get more eyeballs on, but if you can also prove to brands that the sport is growing internally, like, hey, people are coming and seeing this and they're getting involved. So do you want to be on Kenny's bike? Do you want to be on these brands? Because people are seeing what Roxon's doing and they're going out and buying an RMZ 450 and they want to be like Kenny and they want to buy Fox gear. Do you want to be associated with that? Do you want to be associated with what Kenny or the Lawrences or Hayden Deegan is doing? Because then when they're going out and buying stuff, they're going out and buying a YZ because they saw Deegan. They're going out and buying Fox gear. You know, whether you're talking about like Progressive on the bike, we've seen pop in things like that. They see Hayden stuff, they're going to think about you, because clearly what he is doing or any of those riders are doing are affecting these new people coming in and buying. Like, we already have people in the sport doing that, but if we could grow how many people are, reacting to what they see, like, oh, I'm going to go start riding more because of these guys, or I'm going to get a buddy involved riding. Now that guy's buying stuff based off that.
Yeah, I'm going to buy. I personally bought Progressive insurance because, they're investing in the sport. Okay, I'm in. Yeah. This is kind of the last question, but what are your thoughts on this Chad Reed, Michael Jordan thing that's kind of rearing its head? Do you have any? Are you hearing anything that you could say? Or
well, I've been saying for a while. I think Chad, of course, is going to, knowing Chad and just kind of how passionate he is, which is insane. I was listening to a portion he mentioned with Carmichael the other day about him. The thing that everybody hates, he misses getting on the plane and going to the race. And I feel like I have a couple friends I joke about I ride with outside, but most of my friends and family are at the races. So like, if I miss a bunch of races, it feels weird because that's my family now. So I do get his point missing going to it. So I think he's very driven, of course, with his kid coming up. So I think in some way, shape, or form, yes, he will go racing in 2020. He's again learned the pitfalls. When he was a racer, his motivations was different for the team. Now he knows what makes it successful, what doesn't. I think round 2, call it version 2 of 2-2 Motorsports could be more successful because he's been there, done that. And again, I'm not saying 2-2 Motorsports was a failure. It wasn't. But whatever, he will look back and go, well, that wasn't good. And that wasn't good. That wasn't good. You learn the most from the things that went wrong than the things that went right. So he'll be able to right those wrongs. The Michael Jordan thing, I'm curious because I've asked a couple other people that are like maybe closer to that side of NASCAR, and they told me there's basically no way in hell he would get involved in moto because of some of the things that went in NASCAR. Like you're going to tell him, hey, you have no control over, you have no control over this, and this, and no say on this, and this. They don't think he would get involved. So I tend to kind of believe that, seeing what he's done with NASCAR. I do also know a lot of people are kind of excited, like, hey, look what he just pulled off in NASCAR.
Exactly, yeah.
If he could get in here, he could really shake things up. So three
that could be good or bad.
Exactly. I think it'll get. So my answer is, does Chad do a team in 2020? Absolutely. He will find a way to make it happen. And will it be better than when he did before? Yes, absolutely, because he's learned. He's been through it all. Will it involve Michael Jordan? That one I lean on the most unlikely of the answer. Like, I'm sure he'll get people involved. I don't know if it'll be him. If he did get him involved, will it be good for the sport? I think so, because I think, he'll simply come in and create some noise.
More and more eyeballs.
More eyeballs. He'll create some noise. And what we've already seen him do, like he went through it once in road racing where he threw up his hands and walked away. But then this time in NASCAR, he put his foot down and look what it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think, what do we got here?
Well, before I get to this, I got to ask you one last question.
Okay.
What's the dream life for you? As you look, if you're
Riding dirt
right
bike.
here, this day, right now, like Michael Lindsay, looking back,
Yeah.
like the last 32 years or however old you are, what's the next 30 years? Like, what's the dream life look like for you?
Riding dirt bikes, taking photos, and traveling all around the world to talk about dirt bikes.
That's awesome, dude.
Same thing
That just shows you where your passion is at. And
I've thought about it. This is going to be funny. The only other thing I would ever venture of doing a moto, and it would be different, it's an aspiration more from a what can you do from content and side of it. I'm a massive F1 fan, so I've always been sort of interested in the idea of going there and doing that, but I also wouldn't be able to actually physically go do it, and I think I'd drive myself nuts. So yeah. It's moto till the train comes off the tracks.
all right. Well, I've got some pictures here. We can end with some fun stuff here.
Oh, that is...
That's a young ML right there.
Yeah, that is. That was actually fun. That was Travis Pastrana when they first started doing Nitro World Games. I think that's when I interviewed him up in Utah. I sent a picture of my brother because he's a massive Pastrana fan.
Okay.
So, and I was in Utah. My brother couldn't come to the presser. I think that's when I took that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
This was this is when you almost got hit.
I almost got hit by Tony Elias. That is about as wide angle of a lens. I think that's a 14 millimeter. And so if you know anything about photography, I'm within an inch of getting hit by Tony's helmet.
And he's only doing about 120 right there.
I remember that was fun because I've never been to a road race circuit. I came to your guys to shoot, and I just told Tony, like...
Yeah, you just wanted to come out just to like, hey, I just want to try to shoot some stuff.
Yeah, and I remember going to Tony, I'm like, hey, if I lay down the inside of this corner, would you pass by me? And he laughed because he's like, we never normally get to do something like that. Like, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you got that.
Yes. It almost almost hit me, but it was so sick.
That was a sick shot, dude.
Yeah. Alta, right outside of, above San Francisco, right before Alta closed, they brought a group of us journalists up to their headquarters. We rode, actually the more interesting part is we rode this dual sport bike through downtown San Francisco, through the piers. I jumped off like a little bunker in one of the state military parks. I probably shouldn't have, but first time I learned that, yes, some people have a problem with dirt bikes is the fact they make noise, because we were screwing around on electric bikes and nobody really seemed to give that much of a crap. And then we were north of the bay riding, and nobody wanted to try this hill climb. And I just kept trying over and over and over. And that's like the 8th time I tried and sanked it. The one time I jumped off and rolled all the way down the hill without the bike. Nobody ever actually did. I can't remember I think that time I may have made it over top. Nobody else did. And I just tumbled my way down it.
I thought that was a cool shot. I remember you.
One of the guys to this group, the only other like main moto guy, Michael Antonovich was on this because this was before Transworld went away. Everybody else in that group was like YouTubers and stuff that would do more like dual sports stuff. One of the guys they warned.
Well, that was the unique thing about this, is that it was an off-road bike, and like you guys went riding for like 2 hours or something. They wanted to prove the range or something, right?
I remember one of the guys in the group, we warned him how like electric power feels on a bike, and he wanted to do a wheelie in the parking lot, and he literally looped out the bike into the side of the building within the first 2 minutes of us being there.
Classic.
Oops. Oh, you're two-stroke. Yeah, we tell there to ride that. The big
Johnny
machine.
Daldera.
Yeah, Yoshimura still don't make two-stroke pipes. Thought that
was the only two-stroke pike we made so far.
What did you do with that thing?
I sold it. So I bought that bike for like $2,000.
Yeah,
and I sold it for $5,000.
Okay.
So I felt like two-strokes are really fun. They make really cool noises, but they don't really go as fast as the four-strokes, and they're not as easy to ride.
Yeah.
But I like that one because like obviously it's my bike, and everybody was like, "Hey, your number's on backwards." I'm like, "It's a letter, not a number."
Letter, not a number.
But I was like, it was cool. Like I had this stupid project I wanted to do, and you're like, "Okay, we'll do something with it."
Yeah.
Got a broken paw there.
Cartwheeled my brains out in the hills testing a bike, knocked myself out and broke my hand in like 9 different places. Had surgery, had to do a bike test 6 weeks later, almost crashed filming with Joe Carlino because my hand wouldn't even make a fist anymore and slipped off the grip, and I almost cartwheeled down a hill at Zaka.
Hey, I was going to ask you earlier when we started talking, do you remember when we first met? I don't. It might have been when we went through bio or something when you started working for Vital.
It had to be a pipe test, or either that or I came down here with Guy B to do like a shop tour.
Okay.
Probably something like that. It had to be one of those two.
I couldn't remember. Usually you're like, I remember the day I met you. And
I just have known you so long. It just...
Yes. So I got a couple of bicycle pictures here because that was a fun time. I used to be able to go bike riding with you, and you're like, you're pretty good on a bicycle.
I used to be fit. I'm not fit anymore. So I have a funny little side story of this. This is the first time in my life I experienced what it's like when you're the vet guy at a motocross track that has all really cool stuff and you're not very fast. So Vital MTB, sisters.
To be fair, you're at a bike park you brought a butter knife to a gunfight.
Well, that was also the time, like that was intense. That Tracer had just come out the day before. That was like the highest spec build they made. I knew that Troy Lee Designs was popular in mountain biking, so I wore a Troy Lee kit with my name and number on it and everything. And I'm sitting in the line to get on the ski lift, and there's a group of kids behind me being like, "Oh, that's the new Tracer, this, that." And because I think at the time Intense Factor Team was in TLD, so one of the kids was like, "Does he ride for their team, this or that?" And the one kid I hear go, "I hope he doesn't. He's terrible. I watched him roll like 3 jumps and almost crash." And in my head, I'm giggling because I'm like, now I know what it's like to be that guy shows the track.
You're the guy.
Kid, everything trick, and he's just rolling around the vet track. I'm like, that's how I felt that day.
See, Michael Lindsay putting himself in this situation again.
I heard that kid.
I want to know what other people feel like.
I was dying when I heard the kids say that. I was like, yes, I know.
Great.
Now I know. Oh shit.
He passed away, huh?
I think this is the second or third to last photo of Jance before he passed. This was taken a little under 2 weeks before he passed. This was the last day of riding before he packed up and went to Minio's and ultimately crashed in Minio's and passed away. And his dad, Chris, I remember walking into his funeral, and there was, next to the casket, there was 2 photos. There was one that was him and his dad on the starting line. That was the last photo of him ever taken, and then this photo of the 3 of us on the other
no
side.
way.
Because I think it was the second or third last photo ever taken. I got really close with him and his dad the last like 6-8 months. Me and him would ride together and just cycle and do stuff together. And I remember I went to his funeral in San Diego, and he loved In-N-Out. I remember the last thing I did with him, I went to In-N-Out before they left for Minio's. And I sat down. I ended up getting, so he's number 96. I ended up getting In-N-Out. An hour after his funeral, I got 96 as my order number.
Oh my gosh,
when they still made the little plastic placards you put on your table. So I went over to the table and cried for a while after that.
Wow.
Great kid, great dad. I really miss them.
This is back in like 13, 14, somewhere?
No, a little later than that. Well, maybe. No, yeah, sorry, that is longer. So that's probably 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 or 13.
Okay.
I'd have to go. I feel so bad that I don't remember the days passing, but somewhere around there.
I just thought that was a cool photo because I saw it on your Instagram, and I'm like, it was definitely emotional. Comment underneath it for sure.
Yeah.
And your haircut's pretty sweet.
Nice and short. It's short again for once. My hair is always so long.
Yeah.
This was like a week before that, or a week after that at Star West, because that's actually the photo before that was Star West. That's where me and Jens mostly ride together. So yeah, just this is like I said, I would ride Star West almost every Monday, and that's where I met Ross.
Look at that form, dude.
The best I ever was, and then it went all downhill from there.
So I thought this was cool. This was a really cool thing that you did.
Yeah, we used to do the polls.
Yeah, it was the poll. Yeah, but it was cool because at that time, Yoshimura had the RCH thing, and then we had the factory thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, which one? Right?
Yeah.
I just thought it was cool because there was differences, right?
Yeah.
And you were always that guy pointing them out.
Yeah,
but
it was fun because there was so much difference between the bike with Kenny Beyond KYB and James Showa and just all the different little hard parts linkages because the RCH guys were doing a lot of their own chassis program and stuff like that at the time.
You don't do these anymore, huh?
No, because we don't have as many like competing because we would always do it with like the same OEM. There just isn't maybe as many opportunities to do it. And we did it for like 5 or 6 years to the point like I just felt like we'd done it for so long.
Yeah, that's true. Hey,
Might be
we
worth
did
bringing back though. Might be worth bringing back.
Okay, you can credit me for that.
Oh no. Oh no.
Dude,
Oh, no.
This was the talk of the JGR.
2017, the 2018 RMZ 450 intro at JGR's facility. Sight lap, I jumped this very small double that I didn't look at, and I landed far left into a very soft spot of the track, so I landed wide, like tried to ride out of it, and I didn't realize there was a pond right there. I launched off the track into a pond, sank the bike, cartwheeled. Actually, I can still credit this to the day of why I have neck issues. I landed like straight upside down, like full.
You
scorpion.
lawn darted.
I went full scorpion, and I actually went numb for like 10 seconds. Like everything, I was like freaking out. I'm the only person down there. So then I ultimately got up, walked back by myself.
You just
They
left
had to
the
go
bike
with a
there?
I couldn't get out. They had to go get a tractor and dig it out. I still get so much crap for this day. But then what I laugh is the next year, I remember like Nicoletti told me, I think it was Nicoletti told me he ended up in there. They told me how, I can't remember, there was a amateur kid from Traders right at the time ended up there. I think Reed or somebody admitted to me they end up in there, but of course mine's the only one there's a photo of.
Of course.
But apparently where that little pond thing was situated, I wasn't the only person who did that. But Don to this day will never let me live that down.
Yeah, no, I think he still posts it once in a while.
Yeah, because he took the picture of me walking. Or no, actually Travis Fant took that of me. There's a whole other part of this where when we went
But Don took this one, I think.
No, somebody Suzuki. Don, I don't remember if Don was there. Anyways, whole nother issue. Go to fly home. And suddenly my gear bag magically weighs 4 or 5 pounds more than it did on the way there. There was a whole nother thing where I rode a 250 factory bike and it broke. Like I had a bad week. We go to fly out and they're going to charge me like $100 more for my bag. And I lost my shit because I was so angry because everything on the trip had gone wrong for me. I pull that helmet out of my gear bag and somehow my gear bag magically weighed 6 pounds less. The helmet don't weigh that much. So I took it through the airport and I get on the plane and they're like, sir, you have, because I had a backpack, my camera roller bag, and the helmet. They're like, you can only have 2 items to bring on the plane. So I put the helmet on and I'm going to wear this on the airplane. So I'm standing in the jetway and Travis Fant, that used to work for MXA, is partway down the jetway yelling, I think there's a crazy man trying to get on the plane. The guy in the helmet has lost his mind. I heard he's going to do terrible things. And I just look back at Travis.
Dude, you can't say that, dude.
Jetway, like, what are you like? You're getting in trouble. And I get on the plane, and the host, they stop me. And they're like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I've had the worst day of my life." I'm like,
"What's wrong? You have a helmet on."
I'm like, they were giving me crap,
I don't trust the pilots.
Items, all this stuff, and they're really nice. Like, are you trying to wear that? I'm like, no, I don't want to wear the helmet on the plane. But they weren't. I don't know what to do. They're like, here, give us the helmet. And they put it in the little captain's closet. They're like, you're okay, sir. And de-escalated the situation.
That's great.
But I got Travis yelling at the back of the jetway that this guy in the helmet is going to do something on the plane. Stop. Somebody stop him.
Somehow I knew there was more to this photo.
Oh, T-Fan. Why do you do this to me? Cycling. That's what is that? That's
Dana Point.
Dana Point. Yes. Used to road cycle so much. I need to road cycle more.
Yes, you do.
I think me and my coworker Michael Morgan took those photos. We were goofing around in.
Well, it's funny because again, I post a lot of these off your Instagram.
Yeah.
And there's so many people going, dude, you're on the wrong side of the road.
Oh yeah, that too. Bite me. It looks cooler for the photo.
Yeah, it's for the gram.
It's for the gram. Hey, Yosh Cycling Kit. Really, wow, I had really long hair.
Yep.
I got really into building really expensive bicycles there for a while.
You were into bicycles, dude.
Yeah, I started racing cross country for like a year.
Yeah, you did the Over the Hump series.
Yeah,
you were in.
I was all in.
Like you're.
Yeah, that was actually the saddest thing. I had a great collection of bikes, and I had to sell them all. I did the team to help towards the end fund. I sold like $35,000 in bicycles or $40,000 in bicycles.
Do you ride anymore?
No, I'm gonna finally, now that I'm completely paid off my team debt, my first gift to myself.
You're like, let's get some more debt going.
No, that was the first thing I said. When I finally paid it off, I would buy myself a bicycle again. So I'm buying a road bike this week.
What are you getting?
I'm gonna buy a Specialized tarmac.
Okay. Getting a little advice there from the goat.
I think this was right before or after I almost killed him. We went to take group photos together, and we come down this hill, and I had the inside, and I hit a braking bump, and I rode it.
So this is in Japan, right?
Yeah, for a Suzuki thing, and I almost murdered Ricky coming into the corner, and all I could think after that is, I think I bumped him, and all I could think is, he's gonna murder me in a couple corners, because Ricky's like, it's funny, everybody sees Ricky on the broadcast now, it's so humble, like, he's a pretty fiery, he can be a fiery guy. I don't think I've ever rode so fast for the next couple corners. Cause I'm like, he's going to tee me up. 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 And he did. Like 4 or 5 corners later, he teed me up after that.
Gosh, dude.
That Japan trip was super fun with him and Chris Wheeler and just Thomas. At one point we were on
what was this, like 18 or something?
Yeah. No, 2016, I think. This was before that new 450. This was the 250 that came out before that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was actually Carmichael's first ever trip to Japan. In all the years he raced.
What?
He didn't go till post racing. Yeah, he went 2 or 3 times. I went on each trip with him.
Wow.
Yep.
That's it.
And my gear, and my helmet was a replica of Bradshaw's stuff from, I can't remember which year, but it was the replica Bradshaw kit. And I was walking around the All Japan National because we did a demo ride that day, and I kept having Japanese fans come up to me that barely speak English, and they just come up to me because I had long blonde hair.
You looked like Damon.
I looked like Damon in the kit, and guys would come up to me and go, oh, Bradshaw, and they just walk off, and I thought it was so funny. And then finally, like 2 years ago, I'm at a Yamaha intro when Bradshaw was there, and we were talking about him, some of the races he did internationally. He brought up how much he loved doing the Tokyo Supercross back in the day, and the one like All Japan National he'd do a year. And I mentioned to him, I said, "Oh, funny," and I dug up the phone and showed it to him. I was like, "I went to Japan years ago and had like a replica of your kit and helmet, and everything." And the guys kept coming up to me. I said, all these Japanese fans kept coming up and just they'd look at me and go, Bradshaw, and walk off. And he loved that. He's like absolutely loved that era of his career. And he always talked about how like great the fans were there. And like he sparked up so much. He's like, really? I'm like, no, this wasn't just one person. I'm like, I think like 20 people did this to me like in the course of an hour.
That's so cool.
So like Damon was like, it was just cool seeing him like talk about that.
He's such a good dude too.
He is. He's one of the easiest guys to walk up and talk to. I mean, that's why he's like, he does such a good job in the stuff he does for flying Yamaha, of going to like events. Cause like, yeah, he's just one of the most like down to earth, approachable people. And for people that are fans of him that era, you can see them like when he walks into a dealership to do something for fly, you see how the people light up, or any of those events he's at, that they get to go talk to the beast from the East. And he's just like, what's up, man?
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, dude, I think you talked enough. I think we need to go to lunch.
I think we hit your longest podcast so far.
I think you're right. And you're a big part of that. So I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate it.
And I always enjoy listening to you and Lewis go back and forth. I joke. I always tell Lewis, I'm like, you know what's funny is like you corral Michael Lindsay on the podcast, but then on the MXGP podcast, Adam corrals you because he goes crazy. So anyway, I appreciate you coming on board and come and be a part of the podcast. And you got your little gift there. Those pens are ours, by the way. You can't take those. But yeah, man, thanks so much for coming. And I guess congratulations again on your engagement. That's going to be cool.
It.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell. I don't know. Say hi to Michael Lindsay when you see him at the races. He's a good guy.